Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. When Rowan plundered a strength-type trait, both the associated power and the physical attributes supporting it were absorbed as nourishment for Rowan's own strength. They were stripped away completely. Why you? What did you do? Jin rushed to Krieg's side, staring in horror at the bizarre and terrifying transformation, then looked fearfully at Rowan. I told you. If you fight me, you must be prepared to lose everything. Rowan replied, adopting his intimidating villain expression. Jin fell silent. After a moment, he slowly stood up, raising his weapons, a pair of tonfa, each tipped with a heavy iron ball. Oh? You saw what happened to Krieg, yet you still dare raise your weapon against me? Man-demon Jin. Rowan stated calmly, looking at Jin. Jin. What are you doing? Sanji yelled, his eye twitching. He hadn't expected Jin to be the Krieg pirates' battle commander. 12 million Bailey, you're pretty strong, Jin. But you're no match for Rowan. That guy Rowan beat up wasn't a good person. Why fight for him? Luffy called out to Jin. I know I'm no match for Mr. Rowan, but I am still the captain's subordinate. My dream is to support him. Jin declared, his face grim but his eyes resolute. Admirable conviction. However, are you ready to lose everything too? Rowan asked, a confident curve touching his lips. My resolve has been ready for a long time. Jin roared, swinging his iron-balled tonfa towards Rowan. Clang! A metallic impact echoed through the air. Jin's forehead broke out in cold sweat as he stared in horror at what happened. He had aimed for Rowan's abdomen, near the liver, a major human weak point. A solid hit there with his tonfa should have ruptured internal organs, instantly incapacitating his opponent. But, looking at the area he struck on Rowan's abdomen, which had turned jet black, Jin felt drenched in cold sweat. This is the power that defeated Captain Krieg? So it can cover not just fists, but the body too? So strong, like a monster. Only a man like this could conquer the Grand Line, right? Me and Captain Krieg. We were just frogs in a well. Jin let out a wry, almost liberating laugh, then looked straight at Rowan. Come on. In this. Mr. Rowan. Jin shouted. Very well. Rowan looked at Jin and smiled. Wham! Jin didn't resist as Rowan's fist struck his head, instantly knocking him unconscious. Jin. You idiot. Sanji murmured, watching Jin fall. He didn't blame Rowan. This was Jin's own choice. If Rowan hadn't struck Jin down, it would have been an insult to a man who had already steeled his resolve. Men of the sea could die, but they could not lose their dignity or their dreams. But Sanji looked at the fallen Jin, then at the heavily injured Zoro nearby, his own eyes hardened with resolve. One after another, all charging forward for their dreams and ambitions. Knowing they couldn't win, yet still pushing themselves. But Sanji clutched his chest. Why did he feel such a surge of excitement himself? All Blue, the legendary sea where the four oceans meet, said to contain every species of fish and marine ingredient. Sanji's dream reignited fiercely after witnessing these events, impossible to extinguish. Blunder. Rowan showed no mercy. Admiration was one thing, but as Rowan had stated, once you raise your weapon against him, you must be prepared to lose everything. For Jin, who had made his resolve clear, Rowan would not hold back. This is what it means to be a pirate. Plundering Jin's traits and converting them, Rowan obtained 6 pale purple strength-type upgrade materials. Jin's strength was clearly inferior to Krieg's, and also less than Kuro's before his traits were plundered. Jin possessed no deep purple traits. The reason Sanji struggled against Jin in the original story was primarily because Sanji was already injured from previous fights. Furthermore, without Haki, relying solely on kicks against an armed opponent like Jin naturally put Sanji at a disadvantage. Gurgle. The power drained completely from Jin's body. Whoosh. Rowan picked up Jin's unconscious form and leaped lightly over to Sanji's side. He's something of a friend to you, right? Don't worry, he's not dead. I just took his power. Rowan explained, placing Jin down beside Sanji. As long as he's alive. Sanji replied, looking down at Jin, a faint smile on his lips. But, who in the world are you? Stealing other people's powers like that? Sanji looked at Rowan, his eye twitching slightly. Witnessing such power firsthand was truly terrifying. You'll understand once you become our comrade. Rowan replied, smiling knowingly at Sanji. Old man. I don't have to work for a year anymore, right? Luffy called out, having already seen Rowan's power-stealing ability back in Syrup Village. He grinned hopefully at Zeph. Yeah. You're free to go. Zeph replied with a smile. Alright. We can set sail. Usopp cheered. We can set sail now, Sanji. Luffy looked at Sanji, grinning broadly. Chapter 48, When did I say I was going with you guys? Everyone around here, one unreliable idiot after another, how can I possibly leave this place? Sanji muttered, lighting a cigarette as he gazed out at the sea. But someday I will go to the Grand Line. Sanji added quietly to himself. Then come with us now. Luffy popped up beside Sanji, grinning broadly. The time isn't right. Sanji murmured, then a genuine, heartfelt smile spread across his face. Hey! Have you ever heard of the All Blue? Sanji asked excitedly, launching into a passionate explanation of his dream to Luffy. Rowan glanced over at Nami, noticing her troubled expression. Looks like Nami's ready to talk to me. Sensing the emotional turmoil through his observation haki, Rowan's lips curved slightly. Up on the second-floor railing, Zeph watched Sanji talking animatedly about his dream, his eyes softening almost imperceptibly. The captured Creek pirate grunts were left for the Barati chefs to handle, none possessed traits above purple tier, making them useless to Rowan. However, from Pearl, the Creek pirates' second unit commander, whom Sanji fought in the original story before Jin finished him, Rowan did manage to plunder and convert one pale purple trait. Adding that to Jin's 6 pale purple combat traits and the 3 from Django, Rowan now possessed a total of 10 pale purple strength type upgrade materials. Since Rowan's armament haki strength was now directly linked to his physique. Without hesitation, Rowan used all 10 materials to enhance his superhuman demonic physique, Deep Purple. Now, only 3 more base Deep Purple materials were needed to reach the apex purple tier. Consequently, Rowan's armament haki intensity grew even stronger. After enhancing the superhuman demonic physique, Deep Purple, trait again, Rowan, under the stunned gazes of Zeph and the others, proceeded to devour a massive amount of food to digest and refill the newly expanded stamina reserves. Hey! Who made this soup? Patty suddenly yelled while eating, pointing accusingly at a bowl of soup. Rowan, having mostly finished his own meal, watched the scene unfold with an amused smile. What a bunch of awkward idiots. Still, Rowan didn't dislike this kind of clumsy affection. That was me. Pretty good, huh? I was feeling particularly inspired today. Sanji laughed boastfully. This stuff tastes awful. Who could drink this? Is this pig slop? Patty retorted with disgust. Is there something wrong with your tongue? Today's soup is my masterpiece. Sanji snapped back, veins popping on his forehead. He would never compromise when it came to his cooking. Awful. Truly awful. What is this garbage? More chefs came over, tasted Sanji's soup, and echoed Patty's disgust. Sanji's expression grew increasingly thunderous until he finally exploded. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Sanji roared, glaring around at the other chefs. You're just a fake sous chef anyway. Only know how to solve problems with violence. Yeah. Never liked you from the start. The chefs shot Sanji hostile glares. We are chefs of the sea. We cannot waste a single scrap of food. Zeph suddenly spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. Under Sanji's watchful eye, Zeph picked up the bowl of soup and finished it. Then, crash. To Sanji's utter disbelief, Zeph violently smashed the empty soup bowl. What is this mud-like soup? If I serve this to customers, my restaurant would go bankrupt. Zeph sneered coldly. Hey! You damn old geezer. Take that back. What's the difference between my soup and yours? Having his cooking insulted by the person he respected most was unbearable. Sanji lunged forward, grabbing Zeph's collar, yelling furiously. Talk cooking with me? You've got another billion years to go, brat. I'm a man who's cooked on seas all over the world. Zeph retorted, punching Sanji hard and knocking him down. Sanji clutched his cheek, stunned. After a moment, he slowly pushed himself back up. Damn it. Sanji roared in frustration, then stormed out of the restaurant. Even after being insulted like that, he wouldn't lay a hand on Zeph. Zeph was like a father to him. This soup is actually super delicious though. Luffy commented, helping himself to another bowl after Sanji left. Usopp nodded vigorously in agreement. Even Zoro, who seemed inexplicably predisposed to dislike Sanji, didn't deny it. Nami quietly ladled another bowl for Rowan and herself. Rowan looked at Nami and smiled. Sanji's cooking truly was excellent. Of course it's delicious. Everyone here recognizes Sanji's skill. Zeph stated calmly. But if we didn't say those things, how else would that idiot Sanji ever agree to leave? Zeph looked towards Luffy and Rowan. Your ship still needs a cook, right? This isn't a request, but could you take that brat with you? You've seen his skills. His dream lies on the Grand Line. Zeph said, his voice softening slightly with emotion. No thanks. Luffy replied simply, looking up. Eh? The other chefs stared, bewildered. Didn't you say your ship needed a cook? Zeph was equally confused. I really want him to come with us. But he said he wants to stay here and be a cook. Even if you guys say it's okay, I can't just drag him along. Luffy explained, then held up his empty plate. Another bowl. So you want him to come with you willingly, is that it? Zeph chuckled, understanding. That's right. Luffy mumbled around a mouthful of food. But will that brat actually leave willingly? Zeph stroked his braided beard thoughtfully. Probably not. He's a super stubborn idiot. The chefs murmured amongst themselves. I heard all of that, you bastards. Sanji's voice drifted in from outside. He had returned, leaning against the doorframe, lighting a cigarette and gazing up at the sky. Well, we're heading out now. Thanks for the hospitality. Having finished eating, Rowan's group prepared to leave. Luffy grinned broadly. Hey! Wait up. Just then, Sanji approached them, carrying his packed bags. For the sake of my dream, I guess I'll tag along with you guys. Sanji announced, looking up with determination. Shishishi. We gotta cook. Luffy cheered loudly. Welcome aboard, Sanji. Rowan smiled. Yeah. Leave the cooking to me from now on. Sanji replied, walking towards the Going Merry. Aren't you going to say goodbye to them? Luffy asked, pointing back towards the group of chefs and Zeph watching from the Barity deck. No need. Sanji exhaled a puff of smoke. Hey! Sanji. Just as Sanji was about to board the ship, Zeph's voice called out. Sanji paused but didn't turn around. Damn old geezer. What does he want now? Does he expect a hug? A tearful farewell? That's not how men say goodbye. Sanji resolved not to look back, no matter what the old geezer said. He would depart with dignity, like a true man of the sea. Don't catch a cold. Zeph said, a rare, genuine smile gracing his features. Sanji bit down hard on his cigarette. His nose stung sharply. Tears welled up, blurring his vision. He spun around, dropping to his knees on the deck, bowing deeply towards Zeph. Owner Zeph. For all these long years, thank you for everything. I'll never forget your kindness for as long as I live. Sanji choked out, tears streaming freely down his face. Rowan watched this iconic scene unfold, a smile playing on his lips. Don't catch a cold. Such simple words. Hitting right at the heart. Damn brat. Zeph muttered, his own eyes misting over. We'll miss you. Take care of yourself, Sanji, you bastard. The other chefs were now openly bawling as well. You bastards. See you again. Sanji yelled back from the deck of the Merry, laughing through his tears. Sanji has joined the Straw Hat Pirates. Equipable trait list updated, modified exoskeleton, Chapter 49, somewhere in the East Blue, aboard the Going Merry. The ship sailed onward. Yozaku and Johnny had already parted ways with Rowan and the crew. The topmost level of the Merry had been converted into a training room, as requested by Rowan and the others. Wham! Bang! With two sickening crunches, Luffy and Zoro slammed hard against the walls. Ow ow ow! Luffy yelled, clutching his already bruised and swollen face. I'm made of rubber. How can it hurt this much? Was Gramps using hockey when he hit me too? Luffy rubbed the sore spot, wincing. The sensation was painfully familiar, exactly like the feeling of his grandfather's so-called fist of love during his childhood training. Even with his rubber body, it hurt like hell. Now that he knew the power Rowan used was hockey, Luffy finally understood what Garp had been hitting him with all those years. Ha! Ha! Strong! Zoro gasped, pushing himself up from the floor, his eyes still wide with shock. Although two of his swords had been shattered by Mihawk, leaving him with only Wado Akamaji, and he wasn't particularly skilled with one sword style compared to three, and despite still recovering from his injuries, limiting his full strength. The power of hockey was overwhelming. He and Luffy, working together, had been completely powerless against Rowan. Looking at the jet-black coating on Rowan's fists, Zoro's expression turned grim. Armament hockey. His swords couldn't even scratch it. And its offensive power was unparalleled. And that was just coating his fists. What if that power could be infused into his swords? A fierce, beast-like grin spread across Zoro's face. With that, he could become countless times stronger. But the next moment, Rowan's words shattered Zoro's fantasy. Can neither of you sense hockey, even a little bit? Rowan asked, looking helplessly at Zoro and Luffy. Rowan, don't look at me like that. You're making me feel like I'm as big an idiot as Luffy. Zoro exclaimed, his face twitching uncontrollably under Rowan's gaze. That was the look you gave an utter moron. How did Zoro know? Because that was exactly how he usually looked at Luffy. What? Zoro. I just wasn't serious yet. Stung by Zoro's words, Luffy instantly leaped up, yelling defiantly, and charged towards Rowan again. Take my full power. Gamu Gamu no. Smack. Zoro's eye twitched as he watched Luffy scream, getting punched straight into the wall by Rowan, becoming embedded so deeply it took a while to wiggle free. What an idiot. But why? Why was he, just like that idiot, completely unable to sense the haki Rowan spoke of? Seeing Rowan's slightly exasperated sigh, Zoro's face twitched even more violently. Am I really that dense? Let's take it slow. Can't rush this. Rowan sighed, looking at Zoro and Luffy. He had hoped to teach these two, get them to learn haki before reaching Logue Town, so they could help out against Smoker. But now it seemed. Teaching haki to Luffy and Zoro, who had only just set out to sea, was proving much harder than expected. Of course, Rowan's idea of teaching was arguably even worse than Rayleigh's notoriously hands-off approach. How could Rowan possibly know how to teach haki? Others, even after awakening armament haki and meeting the requirements for disposition and physique, still needed dedicated training to strengthen it. But Rowan, equipped with Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, his personal haki training cheat code, only needed to improve his physique, and his armament haki automatically grew stronger alongside it. Possessing Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, Rowan was now, without a doubt, the most terrifying haki prodigy on these seas. And for a super prodigy like him, how did one learn haki? Didn't you just think about it, raise your hand, and haki comes out? Did it even need learning? So, Rowan's training method for Zoro and Luffy was brutally direct: get beat up. Force their bodies to directly experience the power of haki, hoping they'd eventually learn to sense and use it themselves. Naturally, Rowan held back significantly when sparring with the injured Zoro. He had initially wanted Zoro to fully recover before training, but seeing Zoro's determination to train even while injured, Rowan didn't argue further. With Zoro's demonic physique trait, as long as Rowan was careful, nothing serious would happen. Still, this training progress wasn't ideal. Luffy and Zoro had only just begun their journey, their strength and disposition were far from the levels they possessed in the original story when they learned haki. Even at that point in the story, both Luffy and Zoro had to train intensely for a long time before mastering haki. Rowan knew getting them to learn haki quickly was unlikely. They'd just have to take it slow. These two are my best future employees, after all. They need to get strong quickly to help me gather those super powerful traits. Rowan sighed again. Seeing Rowan sigh made Zoro's face twitch even harder. Huge. Rowan is seriously strong. Usopp exclaimed from the sidelines, watching Luffy and Zoro get effortlessly handled. Nami nodded silently, her eyes fixed on Rowan, unable to look away. Click. Alright, idiots. Time to eat. The training room door opened, and Sanji entered carrying trays laden with food, calling out to Luffy and Zoro. Rowan, this portion is yours. Sanji said, his tone much more polite towards Rowan as he handed him the largest serving. Who are you calling an idiot? You curly-browed moron. Zoro, already sensitive about the word idiot, instantly bristled at Sanji's words, veins popping on his forehead as he snarled back. What did you say? Mosshead. Wanna fight? Sanji immediately flared up, and the two instantly started brawling. This is delicious. Luffy commented happily, stuffing his face with Sanji's cooking. Truly exquisite. Rowan agreed, enjoying Sanji's culinary artistry while casually watching Zoro and Sanji scuffle. The ingredients and seasonings are completely different from Earth. For someone from Rowan's background, nothing beat enjoying a delicious meal after a hard workout. Even better, all the food consumed was being efficiently converted by his superhuman demonic physique, Deep Purple, trait to strengthen his body, the ultimate enjoyment. As for why Sanji wasn't training haki with Zoro and Luffy? Because Sanji's role was cook. Compared to training, Sanji prioritized ensuring Rowan and the others had balanced, nutritious meals after their workouts. Strengthening himself came second. Zoro and Sanji tussled for a bit before Zoro collapsed, exhausted. Constantly getting hit with haki, combined with his unhealed injuries, had pushed Zoro to his limit. Sanji didn't kick him while he was down, though. Sanji's principle was to feed anyone hungry first, even an annoying mosshead like Zoro. Now, Zoro was ravenously devouring Sanji's cooking. Damn Cook is annoying, but his skills are undeniable. Zoro thought grudgingly between bites. Delicious, right? Mosshead? Make sure you eat every last bite, Sanji commented, lighting a cigarette and smirking slightly as he watched Zoro inhale his food, alongside Rowan and Luffy who were also praising his cooking. For a chef, What moment could be more fulfilling than this? Didn't need your commentary, curly brows. Zoro retorted, then ignored Sanji and focused on eating. Humphrey. Chapter 50, Sanji grinned. That damn moss head finally admitted his cooking is delicious. Finished. Let's eat. Luffy cheered, wiping his mouth. Alright, rest up, everyone. That's enough hockey training for now. We'll pick it up again when we reach the Grand Line. Rowan announced, having consumed enough food to satisfy his superhuman demonic physique's digestive needs. Sailing at night was dangerous. Even with a navigator, standard procedure was to anchor the ship at sea and wait for daylight to continue. Oh. Tomorrow, we finally head to the Grand Line. Luffy cheered excitedly. These past few days anchored in this area, Rowan had been instructing them in hockey. Zoro and Sanji both smiled. Their dreams could only be realized on the Grand Line. Only Rowan remained silent, walking towards the door with a thoughtful expression, observing the sky through the cabin window. His observation hockey had already picked up the subtle shift in Nami's emotions when Luffy shouted about heading to the Grand Line. Lingering in this sea area these past few days to train Luffy and the others, was also intended to give Nami enough time to gather the resolve to finally confide in them. Looks like there's still some trait harvesting to do before reaching the Grand Line. Rowan smiled faintly and headed towards the bathroom. After a comfortable hot bath, Rowan sat on his bed, letting out a relaxed sigh. But, as expected of hockey, even training observation hockey is surprisingly brutal. Rowan's expression turned serious. While his conqueror's hockey intensity grew stronger daily thanks to Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, his armament hockey and observation hockey still required strengthening his physique and spirit, respectively. Improving armament hockey was straightforward, thanks to Born of the Sea, Apex Gold. Rowan only needed to enhance his physique, and his armament hockey would strengthen automatically. As for observation hockey, through sparring, beating up, Luffy and Zoro, combined with feedback from the system, Rowan had figured out how to improve it. The strength of observation hockey depended on a combination of one's spirit, mental fortitude, and disposition. Here, spirit could be understood as an extension of the user's five senses, allowing them to perceive the presence, emotions, and movements of enemies. After awakening observation hockey, enhancing the five senses through training strengthened the hockey itself. Furthermore, the five senses played a more significant role in determining observation hockey's strength compared to disposition. Essentially, observation hockey acted as an amplifier and manifestation of the user's five senses. And enhancing this manifested sensory perception, aside from rare geniuses, typically required engaging in life or death battles against opponents of at least equal strength. Yes, unlike armament hockey, observation hockey did have geniuses. For example, Kitakuri, though only 4 Emperor's commander level, had trained his observation hockey to its absolute peak, achieving something many Emperor-level fighters couldn't, briefly seeing into the future. This ability to glimpse the future was essentially an evolution of observation hockey, a manifestation and extension of the user's sixth sense. Additionally, some individuals were born with unique, innate forms of observation hockey that couldn't even be obtained through training. For those who weren't geniuses like Kitakuri, improving their manifested five senses required life or death combat against equally strong opponents. It made sense. Even people on Earth experienced heightened senses during moments of extreme danger or tension. By pushing oneself into perilous life or death situations, a strong individual who had awakened observation hockey could sharpen this manifested sensory perception. But engaging in life or death combat against equally matched opponents. One wrong move, and you could genuinely die. Those who survived were tempered by the experience, their manifested senses grew stronger, forging more powerful observation hockey. And even then, natural talent played a role. Some hotheads might be strong but possess poor manifested senses, Emperor Big Mom being a prime example. Truly a brutal, survival of the fittest power system. Even the supporting hockey, observation, required conditions for improvement even more bloody and harsh than armament hockey. No wonder there were many users of armament hockey on the seas. Some, like Zephyr Blackarm in his prime, reached admiral level relying solely on armament. But those who could train observation hockey to its absolute peak, capable of briefly seeing the future, were so few. Rowan chuckled at the thought. For Rowan, with his strongest trait system, there was another way to improve observation hockey, directly upgrading it with materials. Reaching the level of seeing the future was just a matter of time for Rowan. But he wasn't in a rush for that yet. In the first half of the Grand Line, situations requiring ultra-advanced observation hockey were rare. Rowan's current priority remained strengthening his physique. Knock knock. As Rowan was contemplating, a soft knock came at his door. Having already awakened observation hockey, Rowan knew who was outside even without opening the door, simply by sensing their presence. Click. Opening the door, Rowan offered a gentle smile to the figure standing outside. "Come in, Nami." Rowan stepped aside. "Did you know I was coming, Rowan?" Nami asked, biting her lip upon hearing his words. "Of course. I can clearly sense every little change in your emotions," Rowan replied, smiling kindly at Nami. With observation hockey, combined with his knowledge of the plot and the groundwork he'd laid over the past few days, predicting Nami would came to him was simple. "Rowan," Nami murmured, biting her lip again, her eyes filled with emotion. "Rowan cares about me that much? Nami, you. Oof." Just as Rowan started to say something more, he felt a warmth press against his chest. Nami had thrown herself into his arms, her shoulders trembling slightly. Rowan gently stroked her orange hair. "You've been through a lot, Nami," Rowan said softly. He could feel a dampness spreading on his chest. Nami bit her lip, then lifted her tear-streaked face. Seeing her like this, looking so vulnerable yet beautiful, tugged at Rowan's heartstrings. Nami. Enduring the pain of her mother's murder since she was 10, carrying the burden of her village's safety on her shoulders, striving to earn that exorbitant sum of 100 million Bailey. 100 million Bailey. In the East Blue, the highest bounty belonged to Arlong, at a mere 20 million. For a 10-year-old girl, that burden was like an impossibly heavy mountain. Yet Nami, through her own efforts, and notably, through her kindness, choosing only to steal from evil pirates, had nearly accomplished this incredible feat. Nami truly had suffered immensely. "Rowan. Help me," Nami whispered, her voice choked with emotion. For the first time since her mother Belmira was killed, she allowed herself to show the vulnerability of a young woman in need. Rowan's simple words, "You've been through a lot," had completely broken down her defenses. Rowan gently wiped away Nami's tears. Then, his eyes hardened, filled with a cold fury. He stepped out of the room, his voice booming through the ship in a deafening roar. "Of course." His eyes blazed with chilling intensity. Thump. 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 Lights immediately flickered on in 4 other cabins. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji quickly emerged onto the deck, fully dressed and ready for action. "Nami. Where are we going?" Luffy demanded, rolling up his sleeves, his serious business expression firmly in place. "Just tell us who, Rowan. We heard your voice. We're ready to fight," Zoro stated grimly, drawing Wado slightly. "Ha." Sanji exhaled a stream of smoke, his face set in a cold, determined mask. Usopp said nothing, but his legs, which usually trembled uncontrollably whenever trouble arose, were now perfectly steady. "Nami. Let's go. The ones who hurt you. We're coming for their lives. We're pirates, after all," Rowan declared, his expression chillingly fierce. This was the first time since arriving in this world that Rowan had felt truly enraged. "Kokoyasi Village," Nami whispered, her eyes red but resolute, finally naming the place. Chapter 51, East Blue, Kokoyasi Village. This island was the heart of the Arlong Empire, the domain ruled by the pirate Arlong, who carried a 20 million Bailey bounty. Here, humans were treated as inferior beings, subjected to the violent rule of Arlong and his fishman crew. Within the Arlong Empire, every village was forced to pay tribute based on population, 100,000 Bailey per adult, 50,000 Bailey per child. Failure to pay resulted in death. Nami's adoptive mother, Belmir, possessed only 100,000 Bailey. Choosing to save Nami and her other adopted daughter, Nojiko, Belmir paid for their lives with her own, murdered right before Nami's eyes. Afterwards, Arlong recognized Nami's exceptional talent for navigation and cartography. To force Nami to draw sea charts for them, Arlong made her a promise: if she could gather 100 million Bailey, he would sell her hometown back to her. And so, at the tender age of 10, Nami began her life as a pirate robbing thief, continuing until this very day. Aboard the Going Merry, the expressions of Rowan and the crew were grim. Although Rowan already knew the story, hearing it directly from Nami, seeing this beautiful, incredibly strong young woman finally break down sobbing before him. Even the flickering conqueror's hockey in Rowan's eyes began to burn with uncontrollable fury. I didn't want to involve you guys. Arlong and his crew are fishmen. Their physical strength is naturally 10 times greater than humans. They're real monsters. I originally planned to handle this myself, Nami choked out between sobs, looking up at Rowan, biting her lip. Even though she had witnessed Rowan's strength these past few days. Even after seeing him defeat Krieg with a single punch. Even after witnessing the incredible clash of conquerors hockey between Rowan and the legendary world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye's Mihawk. The psychological scars from her childhood ran too deep. After the initial emotional outburst, Nami still couldn't be absolutely certain that Rowan and the others could defeat Arlong and his crew. After all, the trauma was immense. In Nami's mind, Fishmen were the true monsters of this sea, humans were simply no match for such creatures. The reason she hadn't left earlier was because of Rowan's words, telling her to rely on him, that he would risk his life for her. But Nami hadn't intended for Rowan to actually fight for her. She had planned to make some other excuse, just to say a proper goodbye. Nami didn't want to disappoint Rowan, the man who spoke such kind words to her, treated her so gently, protected her throughout their journey. At the very least, they deserved a proper farewell. During the days Rowan spent training Luffy and the others in hockey, Nami had been racking her brain, trying to come up with a plausible excuse to leave gracefully. But Nami knew she was only deceiving herself. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave Rowan. However, during Rowan's hockey training sessions, he had also explained some realities of the Grand Line. Only then did Nami learn that fishmen, creatures she viewed as unbeatable monsters, were actually treated as slaves by humans on the Grand Line. She learned that legendary races far stronger than fishmen, like giants, truly existed on the Grand Line. Yet, even with beings as powerful as giants existing, humans still ultimately dominated the seas. She also learned that before the power of hockey, sheer physical strength meant little. Someone without hockey facing a hockey master, the outcome would be just like Krieg facing Rowan, utterly powerless. This applied even to races like fishmen. And hockey was a power that only became common in the New World, the second half of the Grand Line. It was extremely rare in the Four Blues, even in the first half of the Grand Line. Arlong and his crew did not possess hockey. Finally, when Rowan and the others decided they would head for the Grand Line tomorrow, Nami resolved to tell Rowan the truth. Initially, however, Nami had only intended to share her story, still hoping to resolve the situation with money. But Rowan's gentle understanding, his simple acknowledgement of her suffering, "You've been through a lot," caused years of suppressed grief and pain to finally burst forth. Maybe I should just try to buy the village back with the 100 million Bailey first. Arlong usually keeps his promises. Nami murmured, trying to regain control, biting her lip as she looked at Rowan. It wasn't Nami's fault her thoughts kept wavering. The psychological trauma had affected her too deeply. Even after her emotional outburst, a part of her still desperately wanted to prevent Rowan from fighting Arlong's fishman crew. "You know that's impossible, right, Nami?" Rowan asked softly, forcibly suppressing his own boiling rage as he looked down at her. "You said yourself, those fishmen rule that area with impunity. For them to operate like that for so many years without attracting serious marine attention. It wouldn't be possible without collaborators within the Marines. The moment you gather the 100 million Bailey, what's stopping Arlong from having those corrupt Marines confiscate all your money as stolen goods? What could you possibly do then?" Rowan looked at Nami, his eyes filled with sympathy and pain for her plight. This was the Great Pirate Era. Even for a colossal organization like the Marines, resources were stretched thin. Therefore, pirate pursuits were prioritized. Those who committed heinous acts, murder, pillaging, became top targets. This was why many pirates, while engaging in robbery, avoided wanton killing. It attracted too much attention from powerful marine forces. It was the Marines' way of maintaining some semblance of order. The sea was too vast, the pirates too numerous to capture them all. Deterrence was key to minimizing harm to civilians. Someone like Arlong, imposing bloody rule over more than 20 villages like Kokoyasi. If Marine headquarters learned the full details, his operation would undoubtedly be crushed. Therefore, bribing the local Marine branch responsible for that territory was essential to prevent HQ from discovering the truth. That's exactly what happened in the original story. The local Marine branch was bought off by Arlong. Captain Nezumi, the commander of that branch, confiscated all the money Nami had painstakingly saved, allowing Arlong to force Nami to start turning the 100 million Bailey all over again. It was a cycle designed to be endless. Nami's pupils constricted. That possibility. She hadn't dared to consider it. Or perhaps, she hadn't allowed herself to. Before meeting Rowan, she had no one to rely on. When you have no one, when you stand utterly alone, you cling to any hope, even if it means deceiving yourself. Buying back her hometown from Arlong with 100 million Bailey was Nami's only hope. If that hope shattered, Nami didn't know what she would do. Nami looked up at Rowan, biting her lip hard. But now, she did have someone to rely on. Nami allowed herself to confront the horrifying possibility Rowan presented. It was entirely plausible. If Arlong really had bought off the Marines, having them seize her money as stolen goods, she would be utterly powerless. Forced to continue drawing charts for Arlong forever, never gaining her freedom. "Nami. Stand behind me. Pirates have pirate ways of solving problems," Rowan declared, turning his gaze towards the distant sea, his eyes filled with icy resolve. "That's right. Let's go beat up all those fishmen." Luffy yelled furiously. Just cut them all down, right? Zoro stated grimly, his hand resting on Wado Akamaji. Ha! Sanji exhaled a plume of smoke, his expression dark. Though he respected and blessed Nami's connection with Rowan, they were still comrades. The bastards who caused Miss Nami so much pain. Sanji would uphold his code of chivalry. First step to becoming a brave warrior of the sea. Usopp declared, pulling down his goggles and loading his slingshot with special ammunition. Rowan. Everyone. Nami covered her mouth, trying hard not to cry again. Controlling her trembling body, she stepped behind Rowan, gently resting her forehead against his broad back. She wasn't alone anymore. Set course immediately. Let's show these fishmen what real pirates are. Rowan snarled, his expression utterly ruthless. Oh. Chapter 52, Arlong Park. Here's this month's payment. Take it. Arlong grinned, revealing rows of sharp shark teeth as he looked at the marine officer before him. Arlong was a saw shark fish man. Brother Arlong. You're different from other pirates. You really understand how things work. Jaya ha ha ha. Captain Nezumi of the 16th Marine Branch cackled, his eyes gleaming greedily at the pile of Bailey Arlong pushed towards him. Shay ha ha ha. Likewise. As long as you're willing to be my friend, you'll enjoy endless benefits here in the East Blue. The fact that you understand this proves you're a smart Marine captain. Arlong threw his head back and laughed loudly. Thank you kindly for your continued generosity. Nezumi replied smoothly. Captain Nezumi tucked the money safely into his coat. Shay ha ha ha. No need for formalities now. Harmony brings wealth, after all. Money is a wonderful thing. More trustworthy than anything else. Am I wrong? Arlong grinned, flashing his rows of sharp shark teeth at the Marine captain. Why yes, quite right. Well then, I shall take my leave. Nezumi replied, his eye twitching slightly. Dealing with these fishmen always left a bad taste in his mouth, but the money made it tolerable. Now that he had it, he didn't want to stay a second longer. Have a drink before you go. Relax a little. Arlong offered with a wide grin. A patrolling marine warship docked at a pirate space. It wouldn't look good, no matter how you slice it. Nezumi quickly made an excuse, eager to leave. If anyone reported this to headquarters, I'll kill them. Arlong growled, his expression turning cruel. This Captain Nezumi, though a lowly human, was crucial to his operation. If Marine headquarters learned the full details of what he was doing here, they'd likely send powerful forces from headquarters itself. And headquarters Marines were on a completely different level than these branch officers. The mere thought of headquarters Marines made an old wound ache phantomly. One inflicted by Kizaru, back when he was still a vice admiral. Now a full admiral. But as long as this rat was on his payroll, Arlong didn't have to worry about headquarters finding out the details. Very well. I'll have my men see you out. Arlong said, watching Nezumi. Boom. Just as Captain Nezumi was about to leave, the main gate of Arlong Park exploded inwards with a deafening roar. Thump. Thump. Several fishmen, already dead, were tossed like garbage out of the dust cloud, landing heavily on the ground. Who dares? Arlong roared, veins bulging on his forehead. How dare they harm his precious brethren? Don't worry. You're next. Arlong. A cold voice declared as the dust settled, revealing several figures standing before Arlong and his crew. Rowan stared icily at Arlong. Nami? What do you think you're doing? Arlong bellowed, his eyes bloodshot with rage upon seeing Nami among the intruders. It's true. Just like Rowan said. You really are colluding with the Marines, Arlong. Is that why the government lets you run wild here? Nami screamed, trembling uncontrollably as she stared at the still present Captain Nezumi. It was exactly as Rowan had said. If she hadn't met Rowan. If she had hopefully gathered that 100 million Bailey, only to have it stolen by these corrupt Marines. Imagining that scenario. Nami bit her lips so hard it nearly drew blood, her eyes burning with absolute hatred. Ah, Captain Nezumi? He's our friend, Nami. Which makes him your friend too. Just keep drawing those maps nicely for me, and we can forget this little incident ever happened. Arlong sneered, then turned his murderous gaze towards Rowan and the others. As for you lot. Laying a hand on my precious brethren. You'll all die right here. Arlong snarled, his expression utterly ruthless. Arlong suddenly sensed something was wrong. He looked over at Captain Nezumi. Nezumi looked like he had seen a ghost, utterly terrified, trembling violently. SK Sky Sovereign Rowan? Nezumi squeaked, recognizing the name Nami had shouted. Just seeing the person, he might not have recognized him. But hearing the name Rowan spoken by Nami, and then seeing the man himself, Captain Nezumi immediately knew who it was. The super rookie who had emerged from the East Blue, causing a significant stir even at Marine headquarters. Sky Sovereign Rowan. Sky Sovereign Rowan? So that's you? Arlong whipped his head towards Rowan, cold sweat suddenly breaking out on his own brow. To maintain his dominion, Arlong needed to stay informed about major events on the seas. News from the East Blue was naturally a top priority. And the most talked about news in the East Blue recently? It was the super rookie whose fame already surpassed even pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Sky Sovereign Rowan. User of Conqueror's Haki. As a former member of the Sun Pirates, Arlong knew exactly what possessing Conqueror's Haki meant. It was the power that even Kizaru, the admiral who had scarred him, didn't possess. Why had Arlong come to the East Blue in the first place? Precisely because it was the weakest sea, making it easier to rule. Users of Conqueror's Haki, even on the Grand Line, were all powerhouses capable of carving out their own territories. Hey, Nami. Don't look so scary. I told you, once you save up 100 million Bailey, I'll sell the village back to you. Arlong forced a smile, turning back to Nami. Damn it. How did this little brat Nami get involved with someone possessing Conqueror's Haki? And then have this marine confiscate all my money as stolen goods? Nami spat, seeing right through Arlong's sudden change in attitude. It confirmed everything Rowan had said was true. Just hearing Rowan's name was enough to make Arlong shift his stance so drastically. Even after his precious brethren were killed, Arlong could still force that expression? Compared to Rowan, maybe Arlong wasn't such a monster after all. Hearing Nami's direct accusation, Arlong's forced smile froze on his face. Nami instantly caught the flicker of confirmation in his eyes. Just as I thought, Arlong. Nami snarled, grinding her teeth, her beautiful eyes turning blood red with fury. Arlong really had intended to betray her. Hey, I never said anything like. Arlong started to deny it, but his pupils suddenly constricted. Whoosh! Clang! Accompanied by a sharp, metallic sound, a dense, jet-black fist appeared directly before Arlong's eyes. Arlong's eyes widened in shock. Crack! With a sickening crunch that set teeth on edge, Arlong was slammed violently into the wall behind him. Under the stunned gazes of the other fishmen, the structure of Arlong Park crumbled under the terrifying force. Arlong-san! The other fishman cried out in horror. Captain Nezumi completely lost his nerve, paralyzed by fear. We didn't come here to listen to your bullshit. So, Arlong. How do you want to die? Rowan stated coldly, watching Arlong struggle to pull himself from the rubble. Rowan didn't even bother using Conqueror's Haki. Nami's suffering. He would make these fishmen pay for it, piece by agonizing piece. Haki? Arlong's pride and joy, his rows of sharp teeth, had been completely shattered by Rowan's single punch. Staring at the dense black coating covering Rowan's fist, Arlong's eyes filled with utter terror. Chapter 53, Bonus, the most fitting end. Nami's kiss. Arlong stared at Rowan, his eyes filled with pure terror. As a former member of the Sun Pirates, who had even been captured by Kizaru and imprisoned in Impel Down, Arlong certainly knew what that power was. Armament Haki. A power rarely seen even in the first half of the Grand Line. And it was terrifyingly strong. Arlong felt the searing pain racking his body, his eyes bloodshot. A single blow. And Arlong knew he was severely injured. His head felt fuzzy, consciousness blurring from the impact. Shaking his head violently to clear his vision, Arlong opened his mouth wide. The shark teeth shattered by Rowan's punch instantly regenerated. As a saw shark fishman, even if his teeth were destroyed, they would endlessly grow back. Big bro Arlong. Several of Arlong's top officers rushed forward. Wait. Arlong barked, stopping them. From that single punch, Arlong knew he had no chance of winning. He had once been arrogant, believing in his own superiority. But ever since Kizaru easily inflicted grievous wounds on him with the glint fruit's power, leaving him feeling utterly helpless, Arlong learned a harsh lesson: never provoke the true powerhouses who sit atop the hierarchy of the seas. That was suicide. Facing a user of Conqueror's Haki who also possessed such formidable armament Haki, Arlong knew he had zero chance. Sky Sovereign Rowan. No need to be so angry, right? Harmony brings wealth. As pirates, isn't money what we're really after? How about this? We can cooperate. The tribute from these territories, we can split it. And of course, Nami's hometown won't have to pay tribute anymore. How about it? Arlong struggled to control his dislocated jaw, forcing a smile. Nami stared at Arlong, finding the scene surreal. His brethren killed, Arlong himself brutally beaten by Rowan. Yet here he was, practically groveling, trying to negotiate peace with Rowan. Begging for terms from a human. a member of the race he constantly proclaimed as inferior to fishmen. Nami looked at Rowan standing protectively before her, tears streaming down her cheeks. Years of suffering and anguish. Finally. Release was at hand. Money. Rowan's voice was laced with icy contempt. How about it? Isn't it a good proposal? With your conqueror's hockey, we can definitely rule the entire East Blue. Arlong pressed desperately. Wham! Crunch! Bloody spittle, mixed with shattered shark teeth, sprayed through the air. Ugh! Arlong's head snapped back from another devastating hockey-infused blow, his consciousness threatening to fade entirely, his vision blurring. You dare speak to me about what it means to be a pirate? I'll make your body remember what a real pirate is. Rowan snarled, glaring down at Arlong struggling weakly at his feet. Big bro. The remaining fishman officers charged forward again. Stay out of this. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji instantly intercepted them, easily dispatching the lower-level fishmen and engaging Arlong's top officers. Usopp, too, loaded his slingshot with special ammo, roaring defiantly as he attacked the remaining fishmen. Regenerate your teeth quickly, you have fish trash. Rowan commanded coldly, grabbing Arlong's head and lifting him up. His chilling gaze sent a wave of terror through Arlong's muddled brain. Damn you. Even a cornered rabbit will bite. Humiliated beyond endurance, Arlong instantly regrew his teeth and lunged, snapping his shark jaws at Rowan. Crack. His shark teeth shattered once more. Even his iconic serrated nose, the pride of his sawshark heritage, was brutally twisted and broken by the force of Rowan's punch. Regenerate again. Rowan's voice was devoid of warmth, utterly chilling. Arlong wanted to scream, but speaking required regenerating his teeth, and the moment he did. Crunch. Crack. More blood and broken teeth flew. Keep going. Regenerate. This pain is nothing compared to what Nami suffered. Rowan's glare terrified Arlong to his core. He was suddenly reminded of that feeling when facing Kizaru. That sense of utter helplessness, like an infant unable to resist. Arlong didn't dare regenerate his proud shark teeth anymore. The moment he did, another hockey-coated fist would smash into him. Wham! But the next moment, the jet-black fist slammed into his jaw instead. Crack! With a clear sound of bone shattering, Arlong's eyes rolled white. The force of the blow lifted him bodily into the air. His jaw was broken. His mind completely fogged over. Slap! Rowan's blackened hand caught Arlong's head, holding him up. Still not enough, trash. Don't tell me you're this fragile. Rowan sneered, his smile utterly devoid of warmth. Arlong was a pitiful sight. Jaw shattered, teeth unable to regenerate, iconic nose broken and twisted. His entire face was a mask of blood. Open your eyes. Watch carefully. Rowan commanded, forcing Arlong's head down towards the remaining structures of Arlong Park. Inside one of those buildings was the mapping room where Nami had been forced to draw maps for Arlong's crew. A place filled with her painful memories. Something like that has no right to exist. A tyrannical crimson black light flared in Rowan's eyes. Boom. Unleashing his hockey without reservation, Rowan poured it out. With a tremendous explosion, the mapping building collapsed into dust and rubble. Boom. 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 Rowan moved like a blur, his hockey-infused fists raining down relentlessly. The base Arlong had painstakingly built, the entirety of Arlong Park, crumbled building by building, reduced to ruins. Arlong tried to struggle, to rise, but it was useless. The hockey-powered blows had left his consciousness reeling, he couldn't control his own body. All Arlong could do was writhe helplessly on the ground, watching his life's work turn to dust. Rowan. Nami whispered, covering her mouth as she watched. Though Rowan hadn't said anything, she understood his intention. Rowan was destroying every physical reminder of her suffering. Crash. With a final, deafening boom, the last standing structure of Arlong Park collapsed into rubble. Luffy and the others' battles had also concluded. Arlong's three top officers, Chu, the kissing fishman, Hucky, the octopus fishman, and Kurubi, the ray fishman, were all defeated. The remaining fishman grunts lay scattered and silent across the ground. Where do you think you're going? Rowan asked coldly, grabbing the terrified Captain Nezumi and throwing him down in front of the broken Arlong. Rowan adopted his villain expression. I'm a Marine captain. What are you doing? I represent the Marines. The government. Nezumi stammered, looking fearfully at Rowan. Arlong, the monster, was like a helpless infant before this sky sovereign Rowan. Monster. This man. He was the real monster. Did you misunderstand something? I am a pirate. Rowan replied, his smile turning chillingly predatory. Crack. In Nezumi's terrified gaze, Rowan's armament hockey-coated foot lashed out, striking him hard. Accompanied by the sickening sound of multiple bone fractures, An overwhelming wave of agony washed over Nezumi. Every bone in his body shattered under that single kick. Then, his eyes rolled white, and he fell silent, lifeless. Fueled by righteous fury, Rowan's kick had instantly killed the corrupt Marine captain through catastrophic internal injuries and shattered bones. Ha! Rowan exhaled sharply, the burning rage finally beginning to subside. He turned towards Nami, his expression softening into the warm, sun-like smile she recognized. It's okay now, Nami. Nami's nose stung. She rushed forward, throwing herself into Rowan's embrace. I'm not going to thank you. Nami choked out, her voice muffled against Rowan's chest. Rowan replied softly, gently stroking her hair. Because you said. Actions speak louder than words. Nami lifted her tear-streaked face, looking up at Rowan, remembering his words back in Orange Town. Standing on her tiptoes, Nami pressed a warm kiss onto Rowan's cheek. MNMNPH Sanji watched, filled with immense envy. He lit a cigarette, but his eyes held only sincere blessings for Rowan and Nami. Shishishi. Now we can go to the Grand Line. Luffy cheered, oblivious to the tender moment. Thump. 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 Just then, the sound of many running footsteps approached. Nami turned towards the sound, seeing Nojiko and Genzo leading a group of armed villagers, all staring dumbfounded at the scene. Nami's face instantly flushed crimson. She scrambled out of Rowan's arms. Nojiko. Gen-san. Everyone. Why are you all here? Nami stammered, looking at the villagers from Kokoyasi. We heard you came back with comrades to fight Arlong's crew. We rushed over immediately. Nami. What happened here? Genzo started to ask about Rowan's group, but the devastation of Arlong Park left him speechless. All the fishermen were down, silent. Arlong, the unbeatable tyrant, lay on the ground like a broken dog, face bloody and completely disfigured. Why you don't blame me? Nami asked hesitantly, looking at Genzo and the concerned expressions of the villagers, biting her lip. Nami had thought the villagers didn't know about her deal with Arlong. We've known all along, Nami. Genzo said, taking a deep breath as he looked at Nami's stunned face. We knew you were fighting for us. We knew about the promise to earn 100 million Bailey. We just didn't want you to feel burdened by our expectations when you finally decided you wanted to escape Arlong's crew. That would have been too heavy for you. You deserve to live freely, Nami. Genzo finished, his eyes filled with paternal pain and love. He considered Nami and Nojiko his daughters. Seeing his daughters suffer so much, he blamed himself for being useless. But at the very least, he didn't want to be a burden to her. Genzo's words, combined with the villagers' caring gazes, made Nami's eyes well up again. Nami. Aren't you going to introduce us? Nojiko asked, her gaze shifting towards Rowan. She had seen Nami in his arms earlier. Rowan. Rowan introduced himself with a smile. Luffy. Nami's comrade. Luffy yelled cheerfully. Zoro. Sanji. Usopp. The others introduced themselves in turn. They are my comrades. They're the pirates who defeated Arlong's crew. Nami announced, her smile radiant, utterly genuine. Pirates? Hearing that sensitive word, Nojiko, Genzo, and the villagers stared in shock. Then, they looked at each other, and suddenly turned towards Rowan and the crew. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nojiko, Genzo, and the villagers burst out, their eyes filling with tears of gratitude. To see Nami smile so happily while calling herself a pirate's comrade. Nami's burden had finally been lifted. Nothing could make them happier than this. Nami deserved to smile like that. To live freely. One last thing. Rowan turned, looking down at Arlong. VMM. Rowan's eyes narrowed intensely. A terrifying wave of pressure washed over Arlong's broken body. Arlong, who had been weakly stirring, instantly went limp, his eyes rolling white as he fell completely unconscious. Conqueror's hockey. Was the final terrified thought that echoed in Arlong's fading consciousness. Blunder. Swoosh. 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 Several purple lights flew from the bodies of Arlong and his three main officers, absorbed by Rowan. Convert. Rowan commanded without even looking at the specific fishman traits. They were useless to him, better to convert them immediately. Arlong's traits converted into 3 base deep purple upgrade materials. The other 3 officers combined yielded the equivalent of 2 base deep purple upgrade materials. Even though Hickey had connections to Rayleigh, Rowan still took his power. While Hickey might not have directly participated in killing villagers, he was still complicit. Actions have consequences. Sparing his life was already a concession, considering Hickey's less evil nature and Rowan's future need for Rayleigh's favor. But showing face didn't mean condoning wrongdoing. Rowan was a king too. Hickey being stripped of his power was unavoidable. In total, Arlong and his 3 officers yielded 5 deep purple upgrade materials for Rowan. The remaining fishman grunts only had blue traits, useless to Rowan. The upgrade materials needed to evolve superhuman demonic physique, deep purple, to apex purple, were now sufficient. Gurgle. Under the disbelieving eyes of the villagers, Arlong and the other fishmen, known for their terrifying piscine strength, suddenly convulsed. All their muscles seemed to ripple and shrink, leaving them looking like deflated balloons, utterly powerless. "Wake him up, Usopp," Rowan instructed, knowing Usopp excelled at this. "Leave it to me," Usopp declared confidently, puffing out his chest. Under Usopp's gentle ministrations, Arlong slowly regained consciousness. "NGH. Ugh." Arlong looked fearfully at Rowan. But then, Arlong froze. His pupils constricted violently. Absolute terror flooded his being. His strength? His instincts as a proud saw-shark fishman? Arlong tried to regenerate his teeth, but he couldn't. The ability was gone. "I hear you believe fishmen, who can breathe underwater, are inherently superior to humans. A noble race, was it?" Rowan asked, looking down at Arlong with a chilling smile. That smile looked utterly terrifying to Arlong now. Kick. Rowan kicked Arlong hard, sending him flying into the channel connecting Arlong Park to the open sea. As the headquarters for fishmen, Arlong Park had a dedicated waterway linking it to the ocean. Splash. An unbelievable sight occurred. Arlong, a fishman, upon entering the water, began to sink. Cannot breathe. Kicked into the sea, Arlong felt an indescribable, primal terror grip him. As a fishman, breathing freely underwater, swimming effortlessly, these were the core tenets he used to justify fishman's superiority over humans. But now, he couldn't breathe underwater. What did that man do to him? Arlong didn't have time to figure it out. The agony of suffocation overwhelmed him. Amidst the absolute terror, his consciousness faded. Then, plunged into darkness. Humphrey. Rowan smirked faintly. Drowning. A truly fitting end for scum like Arlong. Stripped by Rowan of everything defining him as a saw-shark fishman. Not just his strength and physique, but even his gills shriveled and vanished. His ability to swim was also plundered. Arlong could no longer breathe or swim in the sea. He drowned. Helpless. In the very ocean he claimed as his birthright. Whoosh. The clouds overhead suddenly parted. Warm sunlight streamed down onto the ruins of Arlong Park. But this light, falling upon the devastated landscape, felt full of hope to the people of Kokoyasi village. The sky had cleared. Nami equipable trait list updated. Selecting climate sense, pale gold, for equipping. Equipping complete. A notification screen, visible only to Rowan, appeared. Rowan and Nami's bond was already at maximum. Climate sense, pale gold. Equipped. Instantly. Chapter 54, Windmills and Tangerines. Setting sail. Kokoyasi village, once bleak under the oppressive rule of the Arlong pirates, was now bursting with life and celebration. The villagers brought out all the food and drink they could find, their faces radiating genuine joy as they threw a massive feast. Because the pirates who had violently ruled over them, Arlong and his crew, had been utterly defeated. All the fishmen who had followed Arlong in his tyranny were dealt with. Those thrown into the sea, stripped of their fishman traits by Rowan, could only drown helplessly. These fishmen, who had believed Arlong's doctrine that their ability to breathe underwater made them inherently superior to humans, ultimately suffocated to death in the very sea they claimed as their birthright. A few, like Huki, who hadn't directly participated in the killing and oppression of humans, and had sometimes even restrained Arlong's murderous rampages, were spared. After discussion among the Kokoyasi villagers, Rowan allowed them to retain their ability to breathe underwater and let them go. Arlong's nature was extremely cruel. He viewed humans as inferior beings and wouldn't hesitate to massacre entire villages. These few less culpable fishmen, whether motivated by preserving their source of tribute or by a sliver of inherent decency, had ultimately prevented many more deaths. The villagers of Kokoyasi, having regained their freedom, wanted nothing more than for Nami, who had carried their hopes for so many years, to be happy and free. They didn't want her kind heart tainted by excessive bloodshed. Nami shouldn't have to carry any more burdens for their sake. From now on, Nami should live for herself, freely upon the sea. Rowan naturally respected this decision. Nami just needed to live happily and freely from now on. Watching Rowan and his crew enjoying the feast, the eyes of every Kokoyasi villager shone with gratitude. Shishishi. Parties are the best. Luffy cheered, his mouth stuffed full, grinning widely. Rowan, eat up. And tell me more about you and Nami, Nojiko teased, sliding a glass of tangerine wine towards Rowan, eyeing him and Nami with a mischievous grin. Nojiko. Nami's face flushed scarlet. Alright. I won't ask. Nojiko laughed, even more amused by Nami's reaction. Some things didn't need to be said to be understood. Nami, forced by her childhood experiences to shoulder everything herself, rarely showed such shy vulnerability. Looks like Nami really likes this Rowan guy. Nojiko smiled, reassured. For Nami, who had endured such suffering and hated pirates to her core, to happily declare Rowan screw her comrades. Entrusting Nami to Rowan felt right. Here it comes. Sea King meat. The highlight of today's feast arrived. Momu, the Sea King kept by Arlong's crew, expertly prepared by Sanji. This Sea King had often been used by Arlong's crew to plow through villages that resisted their rule. Rowan certainly wasn't going to let it go to waste. He had it butchered immediately for the feast. Sea King meat was a rare delicacy in the East Blue. Finally, Rowan's interest was immediately piqued. Sea Kings. Unique and powerful creatures of the One Piece world. The power of Poseidon, one of the 3 ancient weapons, was the ability to command all Sea Kings, allegedly capable of destroying the world. In the deep sea, there existed colossal Sea Kings exceeding 5,000 meters in length. A coordinated assault by such creatures could generate terrifying tsunamis. The Sea Kings in the East Blue were much smaller, but still enormous compared to most other creatures. This tastes amazing. The freshness of the ingredients, the texture. Both perfectly brought out. As expected of you, Sanji. You can make any ingredient taste delicious. Rowan exclaimed after tossing a large piece of sea beast meat into his mouth. The flavor was wonderfully unique. It had the texture of beef, yet the delicate freshness of fish. Combined with Sanji's culinary skill, the inherent deliciousness and texture of the sea beast meat were elevated to their absolute peak. With a cook like Sanji around, eating Sea King was truly the ultimate indulgence. Of course, for Rowan, the abundant nutrients within the Sea King meat were even more crucial. Humphrey. Naturally. Sanji smirked, pleased. Finally, someone who speaks my language. Rowan's praise for his cooking was spot on. It felt like talking to a kindred spirit. Rowan, noticing a slight increase in the equipping progress for the modified exoskeleton trait, smiled inwardly as well. As expected of a Sea King from the One Piece world. Incredibly nutritious. Rowan focused, using his superhuman demonic physique, deep purple, to rapidly digest the nutrients from the sea beast meat, feeling his physique strengthen, his lips curling upwards. The reason humans in the One Piece world could achieve such incredible physical strength stemmed from the immense nutritional value found in the world's meat. And the nutrients within Sea Kings were even more exaggerated. No wonder the top-tier powerhouses could train their bodies to such ridiculous levels, capable of fighting for days on end using their abilities and haki. Enhance. With such nutrient-rich sea beast meat available, Rowan didn't need to worry about insufficient fuel. He issued the command internally. Enhance superhuman demonic physique, deep purple. Enhancement successful. Trait tier advanced. Promoted to apex purple tier. A notification screen, visible only to Rowan, appeared. A wave of hunger, even greater than the last enhancement, washed over him. But with plenty of sea beast meat remaining, it wasn't an issue. As Rowan resumed eating heartily, the depleted stamina reserves were quickly refilled. Once sated, feeling the surge of power and stamina flooding his body, Rowan smirked again. Of course, with his superhuman demonic physique advancing to the apex purple tier, under the influence of Born of the Sea, apex gold, Rowan's armament haki grew stronger as well. It remained at the apex purple tier for now, however. To advance armament haki to the pale gold tier, minimum vice admiral combat threshold, his physique also needed to reach the pale gold tier. Of course, for others, even reaching pale gold physique required diligent training to elevate their armament haki accordingly. But for Rowan, possessing both Awakened Conqueror's haki and the Born of the Sea cheat code, as soon as his physique reached pale gold, his armament haki would automatically advance. The haki training cheat code truly lives up to its name. Although it hadn't reached pale gold yet, Rowan's current armament haki intensity was more than sufficient. Sufficient to take. Smoker's Logia type smoke fruit. Rowan's lips curled slightly. While the smoke fruit wasn't strong among Logias, obtaining his first devil fruit ability, Rowan felt a surge of anticipation. Rowan, try this. Nami carefully offered Rowan a tangerine, her face filled with hopeful expectation, interrupting his thoughts. These must be from Velmir's Tangerine Grove. Rowan took the fruit Nami offered, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He peeled the tangerine, carefully placed a segment in his mouth, and chewed slowly. Delicious. This is the best tangerine I've ever eaten. Rowan said, smiling genuinely, looking fondly at Nami. This tangerine held Nami's longing for her adoptive mother, Velmir. It held the strength of a young woman who, even after witnessing her mother's murder, shouldered the hope of her entire village, determined to buy back their home from Arlong. It also held Nami's heart. Rowan didn't need Nami to say anything, he understood her feelings. And Nami, naturally, didn't need Rowan to elaborate, she understood the meaning behind his words, her eyes curving into smiling crescents. Today was the happiest day she had experienced since Belmere died. Rowan. Nami. Look. Luffy suddenly yelled indistinctly through a mouthful of food. Nami and Rowan turned towards the sound. How's this? Yozaku taught us. The nostril chopstick dance. Shishishi. Luffy and Usopp had their arms slung around each other's shoulders, laughing indistinctly. 2 chopsticks were stuck firmly up their nostrils, the other ends dangling near their mouths. PFFT, ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Seeing the utterly ridiculous sight, Nami couldn't hold back. Her lips quivered, then she burst into unrestrained laughter, tears streaming down her face. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. That's great, pirate fellas. Keep it going. Keep it going. The villagers of Kokoyasi, seeing Luffy and Usopp's performance, also erupted in laughter, tears of mirth streaming down their faces. It wasn't just laughter at the comical dance, it was the joyous release after years of suffering finally coming to an end. How about this? Swept up in the festive atmosphere, Luffy and Usopp jumped onto a table, arms still around each other, performing a nonsensical dance that, combined with the nostril chopsticks, looked utterly hilarious. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Joyful laughter filled the air. Ha ha ha. You 2 idiots. What are you doing? Zoro laughed heartily, holding his cup of sake. Ha ha ha. Even Sanji couldn't help but laugh. Rowan chuckled, clapping along, thoroughly amused. This was a pirate victory feast. Feasts were meant to be joyous. After much revelry, Zoro's wounds started bleeding again from overexertion. Rowan unceremoniously dumped him at the village clinic for treatment. Honestly. Fighting with such severe injuries, then partying instead of getting treatment immediately. If your wounds hadn't reopened from messing around too much, were you planning on never seeing a doctor? Don't you have a doctor on your ship? The village's best doctor, Nako, grumbled as he stitched up the wound Mihawk had inflicted on Zoro. It's just a scratch. Eating and drinking plenty fixes everything. Zoro retorted stubbornly through gritted teeth, despite the cold sweat beading on his forehead. Ship's doctor? Sounds good. But we need to find a musician first. Luffy poked his head through the doorway, holding several pieces of meat, grinning cheerfully. Why? Hearing his unreliable captain, Zoro, already enduring the pain of stitches, felt his eye twitch violently. Because pirates need to sing. Luffy declared with unwavering conviction. I meant, why do we need a musician first, you idiot? Zoro roared. A doctor is obviously more important than a musician. Shishishi. We'll just let Rowan decide the order later. According to Rowan, we need a doctor and a musician. Luffy grinned happily. The village feast continued, but on a quiet hillside nearby, Nami knelt before a grave marker, her hands clasped together. Do you think Belmere would approve if she knew I decided to become a pirate? Nami murmured, looking up at the blue sky, almost feeling Belmere watching over her. Not far behind her, Genzo and Nojiko stood silently. Of course not. She'd never let her precious daughter become a pirate. Genzo stated bluntly. No. She would. Nojiko countered, smiling softly. Besides, even if she didn't approve, would you actually listen? Nojiko's smile widened. Nami made a playful face, a mischievous grin appearing. Just like when she was a little girl, misbehaving under Belmere's watchful eye. Ha 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 ha. You 2 really are Belmere's daughters. Genzo suddenly burst out laughing. Go live life your own way. More than obedience, Belmere wanted you both to be happy. Genzo said, tears welling up in his eyes as he looked at Belmere's grave. Of course. Right now. I'm incredibly happy. Nami declared, standing up and shouting towards the sea. She then turned, looking towards the figure standing a short distance away. Rowan stood there silently, giving her space, yet offering his unwavering presence. Nami knew this was Rowan's way. Allowing her time with her family. Rowan. Let's go. Nami called out, her smile radiant. Wait. Can I have a word with you alone, Rowan? Genzo suddenly asked. Of course. Rowan replied with a knowing smile, glancing at Genzo. We'll go on ahead then. Nami said, instinctively covering the Arlong pirate's tattoo on her left arm. Rowan knew she was going to get it removed. Rowan simply nodded, watching warmly as Nami and Nojiko walked away, chatting happily. After Nami was out of sight, Rowan and Genzo stood in silence for a long moment. Genzo's lips moved, struggling to form the words. Please take care of Nami. He finally managed, his voice raspy with emotion, revealing the deep paternal love and concern he held for her. I know you're strong. But if you ever make Nami lose that smile, I don't care where you are. I will find you. And I will kill you. Genzo declared fiercely, tears in his eyes as he glared at Rowan. Rowan said nothing in return. He simply placed his right hand gently on the shoulder of this man. A man covered in scars, who, despite his own weakness, had done everything within his power, like a true father, to protect Nami. Between men, sometimes no words were necessary. A simple gesture was the strongest promise. Genzo wiped the tears from his eyes, a relieved smile finally appearing. He turned and walked back towards the village. Rowan faced Belmir's grave marker, clasped his hands together, closed his eyes, and bowed deeply 3 times. He made a silent promise to the departed Belmir, he would take care of Nami. He would let Nami live freely. Happily. Upon the sea. Inside Belmir's house. Nami held a sea map, the Arlong tattoo on her left arm now replaced by a design of a pinwheel and a tangerine. Beside her lay a large bundle. Nearly 100 million Bailey saved over the years. The mapping room in Arlong Park, filled with painful memories, had been destroyed by Rowan. Now, only this single map remained in Nami's possession. The very first sea map she had ever drawn, the one Belmir had praised and approved. It's all over, Belmir. It took 8 years, but I finally got my freedom. Everyone else too. They're all laughing genuinely now. It's just like you always said. As long as you keep living, good things will definitely happen. Nami clutched the map tightly, looking around the familiar room, seemingly speaking to Belmir. I'm leaving the island now. Don't worry, everyone is doing well. And there's Rowan. This time, I'm going to draw maps for my own dream. I'm going to travel the world with them. With Rowan. That's my dream. Tears welled up in Nami's eyes. So, I don't know when I'll be back on this island. I'm leaving now. Nami wiped away her tears. Leaving the nearly 100 million Bailey behind for the villagers, she slowly walked out the door. Thump. Just as Nami was about to step outside, she felt the gentle push from behind. Belmir. Nami turned, looking back at the empty room, but her heart felt overflowing with love. I'm off. Nami declared, her smile brilliant and full of hope. Be careful out there. Belmir's photograph seemed to watch Nami's retreating figure. In the photo, Belmir's smile was radiant. Chapter 55, Bonus, Explosive Bounties. Who doesn't know Rowan's name? At the harbor, the villagers were helping Rowan's crew load supplies onto the Going Merry, enough for their upcoming voyage. They also carefully transplanted Belmir's tangerine trees onto the ship's deck. Everything should be ready now, right? Rowan asked, looking towards Sanji. Yeah, nutritional needs are covered. Sanji confirmed. Ensuring his comrades were well nourished during their journey was his duty. With Rowan now on board, a big eater whose appetite surpassed even Luffy's, Sanji had prepared even more ingredients than usual. But Sanji didn't find it troublesome at all. Instead, he meticulously planned Rowan's nutritional balance. Because having Rowan taste his cooking was truly a pleasure. The moss head, Zoro, needless to say, never offered compliments. Luffy just stuffed his face, occasionally yelling delicious. Usopp would offer more words, but his ingrained habit of exaggeration made his praise often over the top and off-point. Only Rowan could provide insightful, detailed critiques of his dishes, appreciating the nuances of appearance, aroma, and taste. Every comment hit precisely on the aspects Sanji was most proud of. For a chef who considered cooking his life, that kind of feedback was incredibly gratifying. By the way, where's Nami? Usopp asked curiously, looking around for her. She'll be here soon. Nami has her own way of saying goodbye. Rowan replied with a knowing smile. What? Nami's leaving without taking the money. Down below, Genzo stared wide-eyed after hearing from Nojiko that Nami intended to leave her savings behind. That's not right. Nami worked desperately hard for that money. Nako, the village doctor who had treated Zoro, exclaimed. She said she can always steal more. You know Nami, once she decides something, she doesn't change her mind. Nojiko sighed helplessly. Nami loved money because it represented hope for saving her hometown. But more than money, Nami loved her family. That fool girl. We're the ones who should be endlessly grateful to her. Genzo murmured, filled with guilt. They hadn't been able to help much, letting Nami shoulder everything. Trying to fight themselves would have only worried Nami and gone against her wishes. But this money. How could they possibly keep it? Tap. Tap. Just then, footsteps approached. She's here. Rowan said, looking towards Nami. Nami. Hearing the footsteps, all the Kokoyasi villagers turned towards her. Set sail. Now. Nami yelled, keeping her head down, avoiding looking directly at the villagers. She then suddenly broke into a sprint towards the Going Merry. What's going on? Why is Nami running? Usopp asked, bewildered. The navigator gave the order. Of course, we set sail. On this ship, Nami calls the shots when it comes to navigation. Rowan chuckled. That's right. Luffy yelled in agreement. Zoro immediately raised the anchor. Usopp and Sanji quickly took their positions. That girl. Is she really leaving without letting us thank her or say goodbye properly? Genzo, who had watched Nami grow up, instantly understood her intention. How could she? The villagers exclaimed, shocked. They had wanted to properly thank Nami, to give her a proper farewell. Hoist the mainsail. Luffy yelled. The Mary's sail unfurled, and the ship began pulling away from the dock. The villagers rushed forward, trying to stop Nami. Wait. At least let us thank you properly before you go. One man pleaded, trying to block her path. Nami. I won't allow you to just leave us like this. Genzo shouted towards her. Rowan. Is it really okay for Nami to leave like this? Sanjay asked, looking towards Rowan. What does it matter? Nami is free now. Rowan replied, watching Nami run with a smile. The next moment, Nami darted into the crowd of villagers. Utilizing her pirate thief, blue, agility, she expertly weaved through them. The villagers couldn't stop her. Tap. Nami burst through the crowd and leaped towards the Going Merry, already drifting away from the dock. Nami. Nojiko cried out worriedly, watching Nami's risky jump. But the next moment, Nojiko relaxed. Honestly, so reckless. Rowan sighed fondly, standing at the deck railing with open arms. He easily caught Nami as she landed. Well. You said I was free. Nami grinned up at Rowan, then pulled away from his embrace, turning back to face the villagers on the dock. Russell. Nami gave her clothes a little shake, and countless wallets tumbled out onto the deck. Everyone. Take care. Nami called out, holding up a wad of Bailey notes she'd lifted, turning back to the villagers with a mischievous grin. Ah. Our wallets. What nerve, kid. You little thief cat. The villagers exclaimed, discovering their missing wallets. But their shouts quickly turned into, take care, Nami. Be happy, Nami. Thank you all so much. Nami smiled brightly. Yes, this was the perfect farewell for her. Everyone. Goodbye. I'm off. Nami beamed, her eyes curving into happy crescents as she waved enthusiastically at the villagers. I swear. My sister really is something else. Be happy, okay? Nojiko chuckled, completely endeared. Ha ha ha. Genzo laughed, sitting down heavily. Seeing Nami smile like that. Truly happy. Genzo smiled too. Be happy, Nami. Marine Headquarters. Maniford. Here gathered the most elite Marines in the world. Marine Headquarters, the 7 warlords of the sea, and the 4 emperors. These formed the 3 great powers maintaining the current balance of the world. Marine Headquarters, alongside the 7 warlords, nominally under the world government, stood against the pirate forces led primarily by the 4 emperors. However, with the emperors largely confined to their territories, Marine Headquarters undoubtedly represented the single strongest individual faction. Inside a conference room, 3 wanted posters were pinned to a large bulletin board. Lining both sides of the room sat rows of Marine Headquarters officers. Each bore the scars of countless battles against pirates. Unlike branch officers, Headquarters Marines faced the threats of the Grand Line, even the emperors of the New World. These officers were on a completely different level. An aura of fierce determination filled the room. So, this group is now beyond the capabilities of a mere branch office, correct? Vice Admiral Yamakaji stated gravely. Correct. Marine Headquarters Commodore Branyu confirmed, pointing at the board. Ever since they formed their crew, starting with the defeat of Branch Captain Morgan, their momentum has been unstoppable. Clown Buggy, 15 million Bailey bounty. Pirate Fleet Admiral, Don Krieg, 17 million Bailey bounty. Fishman Pirates, Sawtooth R. Long, 20 million Bailey. Branyu indicated the posters. In the East Blue, where the average bounty is only 3 million Bailey, these were all major pirates exceeding 10 million. Yet, this crew defeated them all. Branyu declared loudly. And especially. Thwack. A new wanted poster was slapped onto the board. Previously reported by the World Economic News Agency. Already gaining immense notoriety. The user of Conqueror's Hockey. Before defeating Don Krieg, this man even clashed his Conqueror's Hockey against the Warlord of the Sea. Hawkeye's Mihawk. This man's power can no longer be ignored. Branyu stated grimly. Conqueror's Hockey. The Marine officers present tensed, their expressions turning incredibly serious. Sweat beaded on the foreheads of some. That was the disposition of a king. A power not even their 3 strongest fighters, the Marine admirals, possessed. Anyone who awakened it inevitably became a major power player on the Grand Line. There was previous debate regarding this man's bounty. But this time, considering his powers demonstrated by clashing hockey with Hawkeye's Mihawk, and his heinous act of killing Marine Captain Nezumi of the East Blue 16th Branch, we have decided on this bounty amount. For an initial bounty to reach this figure is unprecedented. However, based on our assessment, this number is absolutely not inflated. Such a terrifyingly evil sprout must be extinguished as quickly as possible. Branyu concluded, pointing at the bounty figure. Absolutely correct. Vice Admiral Yamakaji, who had come specifically for this meeting, affirmed. Vice Admiral Onigamo? Your thoughts? Yamakaji looked across at Onigamo. Yamakaji represented the Dove faction within the Marines, while Onigamo represented the Hawk faction. A decision regarding the bounty of a super rookie possessing Conqueror's Haki required consensus from vice admirals of both factions. No objections. This dangerous individual must be extinguished swiftly. Onigamo, his face grim, nodded slowly. If not for certain considerations, he would have personally hunted down this evil seed himself. Then, the bounty amount is confirmed. Announce it to the world. Sky Sovereign Rowan. Dead or alive. Bounty, 100 million Bailey. Branyu declared loudly. Furthermore, the captain acknowledged by this man, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, user of the Gamu Gamu fruit, Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy. Bounty, 45 million Bailey. Inform the world. Let this evil flame be extinguished quickly. Chapter 56, The World Reacts. Syrup Village. Miss Kaya? Mary burst frantically into Kaya's study. What is it, Mary? Why are you so panicked? Kaya looked up from the sea map she was studying, wearing her reading glasses. Kaya was waiting for Rowan's return. Once her health recovered, she wanted to travel with Rowan to many places. Just looking at these maps filled her mind with images. Of course, having never been to sea, Kaya couldn't truly picture the sights beyond her island yet. But where they went wasn't important, who she went with was. Rowan's face was vividly clear in her mind. Please look at this. Mary held out two wanted posters. Rowan. Seeing Rowan's poster, Kaya immediately stood up and took it. Because Captain Nezumi had been killed by Rowan, the photo used on Rowan's poster was still the one taken by the World Economic News Agency. Luffy's poster also now featured the Wii News photo. Click. Kaya walked to the window, opened it, and looked out at the distant sea. She held Rowan's wanted poster close to her heart. Rowan. I'll wait for you to take me to sea. Kaya hugged the poster tightly, gazing at the distant ocean, her eyes curving into a smile. Verity. Rowan's and Luffy's wanted posters were pinned up in the most prominent spot. After arranging the kitchen duties, Zeph stepped out onto the deck, looking out at the sea. A bounty like that. As expected of that man, Sanji. Fulfill your dream. Zeph smiled faintly. An unnamed remote island. Hey. That guy is. Two pirates, observing the distant sea through a spyglass, suddenly exclaimed. He's. The other pirate quickly ran over. Recognizing the man's figure, cold sweat drenched his forehead. Hawkeyes. What are you doing here? A group of pirates quickly surrounded Mihawk. Quiet. I'm not here for you. Where are your officers? Mihawk asked calmly. Boss. One pirate scrambled away, running deeper into the island. Boss. It's Hawkeyes. The pirate yelled towards a man with distinctive red hair and only one arm, who currently had his head bowed. Emperor Red-Haired Shanks. Yo, Hawkeyes. Rare to see you here. Shanks murmured, his head still bowed, his expression dark. Mihawk had appeared before Shanks seemingly out of nowhere. I'm not feeling great right now. Did you come for a duel? Shanks asked without looking up. I have no interest in dueling a one-armed man. Besides, you're hungover, aren't you? Mihawk replied, pulling out two wanted posters. I encountered that interesting brat you mentioned. Back in the East Blue. Ha ha ha. Luffy. He already got a bounty? Hearing this, Shanks finally looked up, laughing heartily as he saw Luffy's poster. Thanks to the Wii News report, Shanks already knew Luffy had set sail. However, there was another pirate who interested me more. Mihawk stated, unfolding the second poster. 100 million Bailey? Shanks recognized Rowan's face. He'd seen it in the Wii News report earlier. But the bounty amount still surprised him greatly. 100 million Bailey. That figure held special significance. Rookie pirates emerging from the Four Blues, after journeying through the first half of the Grand Line, converged at the Sabati Archipelago. Those rookies who rose rapidly upon first entering the Grand Line and reaching Sabati, acquiring bounties exceeding 100 million Bailey, were dubbed supernovas. Reaching that bounty level required surviving the entire first half of the Grand Line and distinguishing oneself among the top rookies of their generation. Yet Rowan received a 100 million Bailey bounty before even entering the Grand Line. This was unprecedented in history. Calling it explosive news was no exaggeration. I clashed my conqueror's hockey against that young man's, Mihawk stated, looking intently at Shanks. His future potential might even surpass yours in terms of hockey, red hair. Mihawk recalled the clash with Rowan. He had seen in that young man the nascent form of the same overwhelming hockey that the late Pirate King, Goldie Roger, possessed. The power to conquer all. Just like when Mihawk witnessed Roger's execution. Just standing there, Rowan seemed to radiate light. Oh? Hearing Mihawk's assessment, the grogginess from Shanks's hangover vanished, replaced by an astonishingly powerful flicker of hockey in his eyes. Well then. I'll certainly look forward to meeting him. But before that. Shanks looked at Mihawk, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Mihawk raised an eyebrow. Drink. Drink. Drink it all. We're celebrating today. Drink up. Ha 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 ha. Shanks grabbed Mihawk, pulling him into an impromptu celebration. Sky Sovereign Rowan. While urging Mihawk not to hold back on the drinks, a flicker of crimson black light flashed deep within Shanks's own eyes. To receive such praise from Hawkeyes. I eagerly anticipate meeting him myself. And Luffy too. Rowan's and Luffy's wanted posters spread rapidly across the globe. Rowan's bounty, in particular, sent massive shockwaves through the seas. Following the initial World Economic News Agency report, coupled with this explosive bounty issued by the Marines, Rowan's name became legendary overnight. The WE News Agency further emphasized Rowan's clash with the warlord Hawkeye's Mihawk, solidifying his unparalleled reputation. Achieving a supernova-level bounty and clashing with a warlord before even entering the Grand Line. From this day forward, across all the seas. Who wouldn't know the name of Sky Sovereign Rowan? At that moment, having resolved the Kokoyasi village incident and finalized the core crew lineup, Rowan and the others were sailing on the Going Merry. Their destination, Logue Town. The town of the beginning and the end, birthplace and execution site of the Pirate King, Goldie Roger. Located near the entrance to the Grand Line. Aboard the Going Merry. Thwip. Nami, having just bought a newspaper from a new COO and grumbled about the price increase, stared wide-eyed at the two wanted posters that fell out. Rowan. Luffy. You have bounties. Nami yelled in alarm. What? I got a bounty? Luffy, previously lounging on his special seat at the bow, instantly dashed over, thrilled. Look. Look, everyone. I got a bounty. 45 million Bailey. Luffy excitedly showed his wanted poster to his comrades. For a pirate, nothing showcased strength and fame better than a high bounty. Luffy had dreamed of getting a massive bounty. Zoro and Sanji also felt a surge of competitive spirit. Bounties were acknowledgments of a pirate's strength. Since they had chosen the path of piracy, of course, they aimed for incredibly high bounties too. Shishishi. Rowan's bounty is only 10 million Bailey? Too bad. Luffy then picked up Rowan's poster, grinning cheerfully, his poor math skills evident. 10 million? Rowan? No way. Sanji, Usopp, and Zoro chorused in disbelief. They had all witnessed Rowan's strength, he was clearly far stronger than Luffy. How could Rowan's bounty be so much lower? Let me see. Sanji took Rowan's poster from Luffy and examined it closely. Ones. Tens. Hundreds. Thousands. Millions. Tens of millions. As Sanji counted the zeros on Rowan's bounty, cold sweat began to bead on his forehead. Idiot. This isn't 10 million Bailey. Sanji exclaimed, utterly shocked. This is 100 million Bailey. Eh? The 100 million Bailey? Hearing the staggering number, Usopp's eyes nearly bulged out of his head in terror. Oh, 100 million Bailey? Nami covered her mouth, her face pale with disbelief, fine beads of sweat forming on her brow. 100 million Bailey? What did that even mean? Arlong's bounty was only 20 million. The highest in the East Blue. In these waters, anyone exceeding 10 million was considered a major pirate. Nami had never even heard of a pirate in the East Blue with a bounty reaching 100 million. Looking at Rowan, Nami's eyes filled with worry. With a bounty like this, Rowan would surely become a target for powerful marines and pirates. 100 million Bailey? Luffy stared wide-eyed, yelling in surprise. Rowan's bounty was that much higher than his? Luffy looked enviously at Rowan's poster, then clenched his fists, renewed determination filling him. Luffy wasn't jealous of his comrade, instead, he saw it as motivation. He too would get a super high bounty. He'd catch up to Rowan. Finally arrived, huh? 100 million Bailey? Rowan took his wanted poster from Sanji, a slight curve playing on his lips. For a first bounty, Rowan was quite satisfied. Kingly disposition increased. Conqueror's hockey intensity increased. A notification appeared. Just as expected. A pirate's bounty amount can enhance disposition, thereby strengthening hockey. Seeing the exaggerated reactions of Sanji, Usopp, and Luffy, Rowan smirked faintly. This feeling was quite enjoyable. The process of increasing one's bounty, gaining disposition, and strengthening hockey fit perfectly with the brutal, survival of the fittest nature of the hockey system. A higher bounty attracted stronger marines and other pirates seeking fame by defeating high-value targets. Those who survived this culling process naturally forged stronger hockey. 100 million Bailey. Zoro murmured, his expression turning serious upon hearing the astonishing figure. As a former bounty hunter, Zoro understood the significance of such a number better than anyone. Forget the East Blue, even on the Grand Line, a bounty like that marked someone as a major pirate. With bounties like these, the enemies they would face in the future wouldn't be mere branch marines or small-time crooks. They would be facing Marine Headquarters itself. And other powerful pirate crews. Zoro assessed his physical condition post-training. Though still sore, he felt recovered enough to continue training. Zoro? Where are you going? Luffy asked curiously, seeing Zoro stand up and head towards the cabin. To train. Zoro replied, his eyes filled with steely determination. He had promised Rowan and Luffy he would never lose again. Facing enemies far stronger than before meant he had to cherish every second, dedicating it to getting stronger. I'll join you. Rowan said with a smile, understanding Zoro's thoughts. Me too. I'm gonna learn hockey. Luffy yelled, jumping up, eyes burning with fighting spirit. Rowan's 100 million Bailey bounty had ignited a fierce competitive fire within him. Today's meal prep is mostly done. Guess I'll go train a bit too. Sanji said seriously, taking a deep breath. Rowan and the others had set him on the path to chase his dream. Though he was the cook, he also needed to contribute his strength for his comrades. Yosh! Brothers! Let's learn hockey together with Rowan. Luffy exclaimed, grabbing Zoro and Sanji's arms. Zoro and Sanji's eyes twitched, but seeing Luffy's infectious enthusiasm, and knowing he wouldn't let them off the hook if they didn't comply, they reluctantly raised their fists alongside him. Oh. But despite their reluctance, a determined light shone in both Zoro's and Sanji's eyes. Hockey. They absolutely had to learn it. For their dreams and ambitions. And for their comrades. Chapter 57, Bonus, the ultimate combat potential ceiling. Bang. 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 With 3 loud crashes, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro were once again slammed into the training room wall, stuck and groaning. Ow ow ow. Zoro. Help me quick. Luffy yelled, his head embedded in the wall. Being rubber made him too stretchy, he couldn't easily pull himself out. Zoro sighed, panting heavily as he managed to extract Luffy's head from the wall. Oh. S.U.G. Rowan. How'd you get even stronger again? Luffy whined, rubbing his sore head while looking at Rowan with amazement. Definitely stronger than before. Zoro agreed, his expression incredibly grim. His injuries were mostly healed, and now they had curly brows fighting alongside them, yet they were still completely powerless against Rowan. Getting hit with hockey is seriously no joke. Sanji muttered, rubbing his bruised shin, his face pale with pain. You 3 remember well the feeling of being hit by hockey. Rowan instructed, looking at the exhausted trio. Ultimately, learning hockey depended on them. But Rowan's own training wasn't over. He strapped on terrifyingly heavy weights and began his own physical conditioning. His physique, under the effect of superhuman demonic physique, grew continuously stronger. Superhuman demonic physique, born from the fusion of Luffy's superhuman physique and Zoro's demonic physique. In terms of raw muscle and bone repair speed, Rowan was now roughly twice as fast as Zoro. Furthermore, as Rowan's physique strengthened, this gap continued to widen. This was because superhuman demonic physique also possessed absorption capabilities exceeding even Luffy's base superhuman physique. The stronger Rowan's physique became, the more efficient his absorption, which in turn accelerated his muscle and bone repair, allowing him to handle even greater training intensity. A perfect positive feedback loop. Superhuman demonic physique. The speed at which it enhanced his physique wasn't slowing down as he got stronger, it was actually accelerating. And, throughout his physical training, Rowan could simultaneously activate Born of the Sea to continuously strengthen his hockey. This tangible feeling of constantly getting stronger was incredibly addictive. Back on Earth, hard work didn't always guarantee results. But here, as long as he trained diligently, he could physically feel himself becoming stronger. The sensation was captivating. Rowan became completely immersed in his training. watching Rowan. Already so strong, yet still training so relentlessly. Zoro grit his teeth against the pain, picked up a massive barbell, and began practicing sword-slashing motions. As he trained, he recalled the feeling of Rowan's haki striking his body, trying desperately to grasp that sensation, to awaken haki himself. How can I get stronger? Luffy pondered intently. His comrades were working so hard. As captain, he absolutely had to become stronger too. Regarding haki, Luffy knew he wouldn't learn it quickly. Luffy might be simple-minded, but he wasn't stupid. He understood his own limitations. Among the three sworn brothers, himself, Ace, and Sabo, he had always been the least talented in combat during their childhood. Even after eating the devil fruit, he often lost fights against Ace, who hadn't eaten one. And initially, his use of the Gamu Gamu fruit was abysmal. Forget hitting others, he often ended up tying himself in knots. So Luffy knew clearly, he wasn't a genius. If Zoro and the others couldn't learn haki quickly, neither could he. Therefore, the quickest way for him to get stronger right now was through his devil fruit. His unique advantage over Rowan and Zoro. Luffy stretched his arm, then his leg, experimenting, thinking hard. Rowan, still training, sensed Luffy's actions with his observation haki. Starting to experiment with gears 2nd and 3rd already? Rowan thought. Rowan deliberately hadn't given Luffy any hints about those techniques. Using the rubber body for those gears placed immense strain on the user's physique. In the original story's timeline around Eni's lobby. Well past the halfway point of paradise, nearing Sabiti, Luffy's body could barely handle gear 2nd and 3rd. Right now, before even entering the Grand Line, Luffy's current physique was nowhere near strong enough to support those techniques safely. So Rowan offered no guidance regarding Luffy's devil fruit development. Frankly, none was needed. The notion of developing devil fruit abilities was largely discarded later in the story by the original author. Devil fruit powers were essentially fixed. As the user's physique strengthened, they naturally unlocked stronger applications of their fruit. The only major bottleneck was awakening, after which the fruit's power reached its peak potential. Let Luffy experiment on his own. Let him gradually master the power of gears 2nd and 3rd. This process of exploring his devil fruit abilities would also naturally strengthen Luffy's physique. Eating a devil fruit inherently changed the user's body. Luffy, even before awakening Nika, was rubber. Constantly utilizing his rubber abilities naturally enhanced his physical strength and resilience. This was why devil fruit users, especially those with combat-oriented fruits, generally possessed far superior physiques and stamina compared to non-users. It was also why Rowan, despite the haki-centric power ceiling of the world, was determined to acquire powerful devil fruits. Powerful devil fruits, particularly mythical zones, granted users incredibly vast stamina reserves. Based on the later combat endurance of top-tier Logia users like Aokiji and Akainu, awakened Logias likely also provided immense stamina. Furthermore, the inherent powers of strong devil fruits were formidable. Combined with haki, their ultimate combat potential ceiling definitely surpassed that of fighters relying solely on haki. Consider Garp during the Hikinazu incident. Despite possessing superior offensive power with his infused Conqueror's haki and completely dominating Aokiji in terms of attack power, Aokiji's Ice Fruit couldn't fully negate Garp's infused blows. Garp was still at a disadvantage in terms of stamina and durability. Garp landed numerous devastating infused Conqueror's attacks on Aokiji. Yet Aokiji, through his superior physique and stamina, likely enhanced by his awakened Logia, kept getting back up, continuing the fight. Meanwhile, Garp took just one sneak attack from Shiryu, and his combat effectiveness plummeted rapidly. In the One Piece world, those with superhuman stamina and durability were almost always powerful devil fruit users. And for Rowan, possessing the Born of the Sea trait, greater physical strength directly translated to stronger armament haki. Even infused Conqueror's haki, while not requiring physique to strengthen, still consumed stamina as fuel. Therefore, acquiring powerful devil fruits was crucial for maximizing Rowan's ultimate combat potential. Haki and devil fruits weren't mutually exclusive counters like sea stone against devil fruits, they were simply different forms of power. Haki merely provided the means to hit devil fruit users. Strong haki could overwhelm weaker devil fruit abilities. But powerful devil fruit abilities could likewise overwhelm weaker haki. Supreme haki plus supreme devil fruit abilities. That combination yielded the absolute highest combat potential ceiling in the One Piece world. Even non-devil fruit users at the absolute peak, like Shanks and Roger, possessed terrifying swordsmanship to supplement their haki and elevate their combat ceiling. A fighter relying solely on haki would inevitably fall short compared to someone who mastered both haki and a powerful devil fruit. This gap would widen even further past their prime physical years. Zephyr Blackarm was the prime example. And the smoke fruit. was merely the first stepping stone for Rowan towards acquiring truly powerful devil fruits. Rowan continued his physical training while simultaneously enhancing his haki through Born of the Sea, a slight smile playing on his lips. Sanji watched Rowan and the others training intensely. He didn't join them this time. Instead, he quietly closed the training room door, slowly rolled up his sleeves, and headed towards the kitchen, enduring the lingering pain in his own body. His primary role was cook. While his comrades pushed themselves, his duty was to provide the nutritional support they needed. However, even while preparing the food, ensuring both taste and nutrition, Sanji constantly replayed the feeling of Rowan's haki strikes in his mind. He too had to get stronger. Nami, meanwhile, diligently monitored the sea conditions from the upper deck, occasionally glancing towards the training room window to watch Rowan. The rest of the time, her focus was entirely on ensuring the Going Merry sailed smoothly and safely. Rowan was working so hard to get stronger. As the navigator, she had to ensure their journey was flawless. Usopp followed Nami's commands, adjusting the Mary's rudder and sails as needed, currently acting as both shipwright and helmsman. The Going Merry sailed smoothly onward. During these days filled with rigorous training and steady progress, under Nami's near-perfect navigation, Logue Town came into view. Chapter 58, Nami's Cuteness. A museum-worthy klutz. Click. The door to Rowan's cabin opened quietly. A beautiful figure tiptoed inside. Rowan. Nami whispered, her eyes curving into smiling crescents as she looked at Rowan, fast asleep on the bed. The day before reaching Logue Town, Rowan had stopped his intense training and had been sleeping ever since. Through his training, Rowan had discovered a hidden effect of his superhuman demonic physique, Apex Purple. After accumulating extreme fatigue through intense training or battle, an extended period of deep sleep allowed his body to recover optimally, becoming even stronger in the process. It was similar to how people on Earth built physique. Strengthening happened during rest and sleep. Although Rowan had superhuman demonic physique, Zoro had demonic physique, and Luffy had superhuman physique. They still needed sleep to recover from accumulated fatigue and maximize the efficiency of their training and growth. This explained why, in the original story, Luffy and Zoro often slept for extended periods, sometimes days on end, after major battles. Nami carefully sat on the edge of Rowan's bed, quietly watching him sleep. Looking at Rowan, memories flooded Nami's mind. Their first meeting, all the way to him saving her and her village. From acquaintanceship, to understanding, to... Nami thought back to Arlong Park, to the kiss she had given Rowan, and her cheeks flushed slightly. "Thank you, Rowan," Nami murmured, gently touching Rowan's cheek. The exact spot she had kissed. But the next moment, Nami's face turned beet red. Rowan?" Nami stammered, staring at Rowan, who had opened his eyes and was now looking directly at her. "Gee, good morning. Lovely weather, isn't it? Well, I should get going." Nami blurted out a clumsy excuse, trying to make a quick escape. The next second, "Kaya!" Nami gasped as she was suddenly lifted into the air. Staring at Rowan's face, now incredibly close, Nami could even feel his breath. Her face turned impossibly red. "Were you trying to steal something, little thief cat?" Rowan asked, looking at Nami's flushed face, a fond, teasing smile playing on his lips. I wasn't stealing anything from you. I just came to wake you up. We're almost at Logue Town. I'll go now." Nami tried to squirm away, wanting to escape. "Is that so? But I feel like you did steal something from me," Rowan replied seriously, looking intently at Nami's crimson face. Nami started to protest, but then saw Rowan point to the cheek she had just touched. "You stole this," Rowan said, pointing at his cheek, smiling mischievously at Nami. "You were planning to wake me up like this, weren't you? Just like back in Kokoyasi village? But now you're trying to run away." Rowan's lips curved slightly upwards. "Who said that? I just came to wake you up, that's all." Nami sputtered, speechless. How could she argue when she had been lost in memories of their journey together, looking at his sleeping face, and acted impulsively? But Nami still tried one last desperate defense. "Nami. Rowan. Come quick. We've reached Logue Town." Luffy's sudden loud shout from outside made Nami jump in panic. Seeing Rowan still showed no intention of letting her go, Nami's face felt like it was on fire. Because of her experiences in Kokoyasi village, she had buried her typical girly behavior years ago. But around Rowan, Nami always seemed to revert to the young woman her age was supposed to be. "So, are you going to return what you stole, little thief cat?" Rowan asked, his smile widening. Feeling the warmth press against her cheek, Nami scrambled away like a startled kitten. Rowan chuckled. "Nami is really adorable, so that's Logue Town." Dressed and ready, Rowan walked out onto the deck, looking at the town on the island ahead. The birthplace and execution site of the Pirate King. Hence its nickname, the town of the beginning and the end. In the past, this town was notoriously chaotic. Logetown's location near the entrance to the Grand Line made it the final supply stop for pirates heading into the treacherous sea. Furthermore, being the place where the Pirate King began and ended his journey, many pirates came here seeking to follow in his footsteps. This inevitably led to constant clashes between pirates, bounty hunters, and marines, making the town incredibly turbulent. But everything changed after Captain Smoker took command of the marine branch here. A Logia-type devil fruit user was practically invincible in the East Blue. No pirate could escape Smoker's pursuit. It could be argued that Smoker was partly responsible for the East Blue being known as the weakest sea. After all, the pirates capable of reaching Logetown and aiming for the Grand Line were generally the stronger ones from the East Blue. By capturing virtually all of them, Smoker effectively culled the ambitious and powerful, leaving mostly mediocrities without the ability or drive to venture into the Grand Line. However, Smoker had now become Rowan's prey. Nami glanced sideways at Rowan, then quickly looked away, pretending to study Logetown nonchalantly when she felt his gaze. Rowan chuckled inwardly at Nami's thief-like attempt at subtlety. It was quite endearing. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji all smiled as they looked towards Logetown. From here, they would officially embark on their journey into the Grand Line. Their dreams were about to truly set sail. Soon, the Going Merry docked. What a huge town! Luffy exclaimed, grinning as he took in the bustling sights of Logetown. I'm gonna go see the execution platform where the Pirate King died. Luffy declared excitedly, then dashed off towards the town center without waiting for a reply. Hey! Luffy! We haven't decided on a meeting place yet. Usopp yelled after him, but Luffy had already disappeared into the crowd. Honestly. That guy is still such an airhead. Usopp sighed helplessly. Let him have his fun. We should go stock up on supplies too. This is our last chance before entering the Grand Line. Rowan suggested with a smile. He wasn't sure if the buggy pirates would show up here seeking revenge like in the original story. But Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon, was definitely here. Even if things played out like the original, with Buggy capturing Luffy and attempting a public execution, Rowan wasn't worried. Dragon would intervene and sort everything out. Rowan had no particular interest in Goldie Roger's execution platform. Let Luffy explore on his own. I need to buy 2 swords. Zoro stated. Entering the Grand Line, as a 3-sword style user, he needed his full complement of blades. Buy swords? Do you have any money, Zoro? Hearing this, Nami's eyes suddenly lit up, a predatory merchant gleam appearing in them. And no. Zoro replied, his eye twitching at the mention of money. I can lend you some. Nami offered brightly. Zoro felt a surge of hope. Maybe Nami isn't so bad after all. She knew he needed the money for swords. After all, Nami had previously earned money to save her home down. She left nearly 100 million Bailey behind for them. Surely lending him a bit for swords. But you have to pay me back triple. Nami finished, her eyes literally transforming into Bailey symbols, $. You haven't changed at all. Zoro yelled, his eye twitching violently. So, do you want the loan or not? Just telling you, if you borrow it, you can't default. Nami declared, grabbing Rowan's arm and tilting her chin up proudly. With Rowan backing her up, Nami felt incredibly confident. Rowan watched Nami's money grubber persona emerge, amused. I'll borrow it. In the end, Zoro reluctantly agreed to Nami's high-interest loan. Okay. I'm going shopping then, Rowan. Having successfully extorted Zoro, Nami beamed happily at Rowan. Alright. Have fun. Rowan replied with a smile. The horror of accompanying a girl on a shopping trip was something Rowan remembered vividly from Earth. It was an ordeal he preferred to avoid. Besides, Rowan had his own plans. I'm gonna go check out the ingredients. And look. So many beautiful ladies. Sanji started seriously, but his eyes quickly transformed into hearts as he spotted attractive women nearby, vanishing into the crowd instantly. That idiot lovesick Kappa. Zoro muttered, watching Sanji disappear. Well, Rowan, I'm gonna go buy some stuff too. Goggles, and materials for inventing. Usopp said, then also headed off into Logetown. Let's go, Zoro. Follow my lead. Rowan said, turning to Zoro once the others had dispersed. Got it. Zoro smirked. Chapter 59, Bonus, Logetown Arrival. Dashigizi AI Jutsu. Logetown Marine Branch, Captain's Office. Hiss. 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 Dense smoke filled the entire room, completely obscuring the interior. Bang. The office door burst open frantically. Captain Smoker. Terrible news. A Marine soldier rushed in, his face pale with horror. Word from headquarters. Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy's crew is heading towards Town. The captain, Straw Hat Luffy, is a pirate with a 45 million Bailey bounty. The soldier paused, sweat suddenly drenching his forehead, his expression turning fearful. And among the Straw Hats is Sky Sovereign Rowan, with a bounty of 100 million Bailey. The Marine yelled the last part, as if shouting could bolster his courage. 100 million Bailey. In all his time stationed in Town, he had never seen such a high bounty. That kind of bounty, even on the Grand Line, signified an absolutely major pirate. 100 million? Not small fry, then. That bounty. A figure slowly emerged from the thick smoke inside the office. Captain. They defeated Clown Buggy's crew, and the Fishman Arlong's crew. And Sky Sovereign Rowan killed Captain Nezumi of the 16th branch. They're vicious pirates. The soldier yelled urgently, seeing Smoker's seemingly nonchalant reaction. Calm down. All your shouting ruined my concentration. Failed again. Smoker grumbled, standing up. He opened the window, letting the smoke dissipate from the office. He had been training his smoke fruit abilities. So. What were you saying? Smoker turned around. Headquarters says the Straw Hats are estimated to arrive in Town today. The soldier reported, snapping to attention, though the cold sweat and fear in his eyes were still evident. A 100 million Bailey pirate. About to land in Town. Don't panic. Since I've been stationed here, has a single pirate who entered this town never escaped? Smoker stated calmly, pulling on his signature justice coat and lighting 2 cigars simultaneously. And no, sir. Hearing Smoker's confident words, the soldier swallowed hard, his fear of the 100 million Bailey pirate diminishing slightly. Then stay calm. Don't disrupt my rhythm. Even if it's 100 million Bailey. It makes no difference. Smoker declared. His confidence stemmed from the devil fruit he had eaten. The Logia-type smoke fruit. Here in Town, just before the entrance to the Grand Line, a Logia user was virtually invincible against pirates from the 4 Blues. Even a 100 million Bailey pirate was no exception. Report. Pirates sighted at the harbor. Requesting your immediate presence, sir. Just then, another Marine soldier burst into the room. It must be the Straw Hats. They've arrived. The first soldier exclaimed. 45 million. And 100 million. Hope they're interesting fellows. Smoker muttered, heading outside. So expensive. The money I borrowed isn't nearly enough. Zoro sighed, looking at the swords displayed in a shop window, his eye twitching. But there was no way he was going back to Nami for more money. Triple interest. Borrowing too much would bankrupt him completely. But I can't enter the Grand Line with just one sword. Rowan, do you have any spare cash? Zoro asked, turning hopefully towards Rowan. Money. I have no interest in money. Rowan replied, glancing at Zoro, a powerful curve to his lips. So. You're? Zoro's eye twitched even harder. Completely broke. Rowan finished, spreading his hands empty. Of course, I'm not interested in money when I don't have any. Zoro covered his forehead. Just then, Rowan's lips curved into a knowing smile as he looked towards another direction. Found her. It's rude to call Captain Smoker a monster. A high-pitched female voice declared earnestly. Shut up. Our boss got thrown in jail because of that bastard. We're gonna dump your corpse right in front of him. 2 rough-looking pirates snarled menacingly at the woman holding a sword protectively before her. I understand. I will accept your challenge. Tashigi replied seriously. Huh? Ha ha ha. What can a woman like you do? The 2 pirates laughed contemptuously. Die. They charged, swinging their swords at Tashigi. Clang. Seeing this, Zoro instinctively moved to draw his sword. He couldn't stand watching bullies pick on the seemingly weak. But the next moment. Rowan? Zoro looked surprised as Rowan placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. Watch. That woman isn't weak. Rowan commented, looking at Tashigi with a faint smile. Zoro immediately focused his attention. He knew Rowan possessed observation haki, capable of sensing others' strength through their presence. Shink. With a swift draw, Tashigi crouched low, executing a beautiful AI jutsu slash. The 2 pirates collapsed instantly. Amazing. The surrounding crowd gasped in awe. That must be observation haki, right? Incredible. Zoro remarked, seeing Tashigi easily defeat the 2 pirates just as Rowan predicted. Rowan didn't explain, simply smiling as he watched Tashigi. Ha. Tashigi, holding her elegant finishing pose, prepared to sheath her sword. Whoa. Suddenly, Tashigi tripped over her own feet, inexplicably falling face first onto the ground. Her glasses flew off, landing near Rowan and Zoro. Ha ha ha. Can't figure out if she's strong or just clumsy. The crowd chuckled good-naturedly. Ow ow ow. Where are my glasses? Dashigi mumbled, groping blindly on the ground. Here are your glasses, Rowan said, picking them up and offering them to Tashigi with a smile. Thank you so much. Dashigi looked up towards Rowan, unable to see his face clearly without her glasses, but offered a grateful smile. Why you? Kuina? Zoro gasped, his pupils constricting in shock the moment he saw Tashigi's face clearly. This woman looked exactly like his deceased childhood friend and rival. Kuina? Who's that? Dashigi asked curiously, taking her glasses back from Rowan and putting them on. Sorry. This guy's an idiot. Rowan interjected smoothly with a smile. Zoro's eye twitched. If Curly Brows had said that, he would have started a fight immediately. But coming from Rowan, he couldn't really argue. Not after failing so miserably to learn hockey under Rowan's tutelage. Thank you so much. I don't know how to repay you. Dashigi bowed repeatedly, endearingly clumsy. Don't mention it. I just picked up your glasses. However, if it's all right, could you perhaps do me a small favor? Rowan asked, smiling at the adorably clumsy Tashigi. Eh? Dashigi looked bewildered. Chapter 60, So you guys came here to buy swords? Dashigi asked, leading Rowan and Zoro through the streets of Lobe Town. I'm actually here to pick up my sword that was being sharpened. But it's strange. Don't you already have one sword? Dashigi looked curiously at Zoro. He just really likes collecting swords. Rowan interjected with a smile, clapping Zoro on the shoulder before Zoro could answer. Although Tashigi was endearingly naive, recognizing a three-sword style user in the East Blue could easily lead to identifying Zoro. Rowan still needed this clueless marine to guide them. Really? You like collecting swords too? Dashigi suddenly asked Rowan, her eyes lighting up with surprise and excitement. Oh? You like collecting swords as well? Rowan asked, feigning ignorance with a smile. Well, it's not exactly collecting. It's just that in this era, most of the famous blades have fallen into the hands of villains. The 12 supreme grade swords, the 21 great grade swords, the 50 skillful grade swords. My dream is to retrieve all the famous swords in the world from the hands of those villains. Even if I have to risk my life. Dashigi declared passionately, her eyes sparkling brightly as she spoke of her dream. That's quite an admirable dream. Rowan commented, looking at Tashigi, a slight smile playing on his lips. Eh? Really? Dashigi gasped, then excitedly grabbed Rowan's arm. This was the first time anyone had genuinely acknowledged her dream. Most people reacted with disbelief or condescension, thinking, just a woman, talking big. Even her fellow Marines, while not saying it outright, often conveyed similar sentiments through their expressions. Women were inherently weaker than men. Dashigi often wished she had been born male. Do you really think I can achieve my dream? Dashigi asked eagerly, sensing Rowan's sincerity, craving further validation from the first person who truly seemed to believe in her. Achieve it? Well, that might be rather difficult. Rowan replied honestly, looking at the excited Tashigi. The famous swords of this world. Who wielded them? Setting aside others, among the supreme grade swords, Ace, sword name, belonged to Goldie Roger, current whereabouts unknown, Yoru, the Black Blade, belonged to the world's greatest swordsman, Mihawk, Murakamagiri belonged to Whitebeard, the emperor known as the world's strongest man. Trying to retrieve those swords? Given Tashigi's current strength and aptitude, the probability was practically zero. Is it? Because I'm the woman, after all? Dashigi's bright eyes instantly dimmed with disappointment. She had thought she'd finally met someone different, but was he ultimately looking down on her because of her gender? Dashigi's insecurity about being a woman made her interpret almost any comment through that lens. Zoro's eye twitched upon hearing Tashigi's words. Not only does she look like Kuina, but she even sounds like her. Though, Kuina was much smarter than this woman. No, it's not because you're a woman. Even for the world's greatest swordsman, accomplishing that goal would be nearly impossible. Rowan stated seriously, pausing to look directly at the disheartened Tashigi. Even Mihawk would struggle immensely to acquire all those famous blades. Many of which were held within the territories of the four emperors. But just because something seems impossible, does that mean you shouldn't even try? That's not how things work on this sea, after all, people's dreams never end. Rowan declared, spreading his arms wide and laughing heartily. Humphrey. A smirk touched Zoro's lips. As expected of Rowan. Dashigi stared blankly at the laughing Rowan. For some reason, at that moment, she felt like the man before her was radiating light. That's right. I absolutely will achieve my dream. Dashigi exclaimed, inspired by Rowan's words. Hey! Watch where you're going. Just then, someone bumped into Tashigi as they walked past. Sorry. Dashigi quickly tried to step aside. In her haste, she once again tripped over her own feet. Thud. Ouch! Dashigi cried, rubbing her head. Zoro's eye twitched again watching the clumsy idiot. Truly. A national treasure level klutz. Rowan also looked helplessly at Dashigi, who had been so full of determination just moments before. Yep. Definitely belongs in a museum exhibit of clumsiness. Led by Dashigi, Rowan and Zoro soon arrived at a sword shop. Shopkeeper. Is my sword sharpened yet? Dashigi called out upon entering. Your sword. The shopkeeper, a man with a prominent drinker's nose, looked up, but his pupils instantly constricted the next moment. That sword is. The shopkeeper stared intently at the sword at Zoro's hip. Shopkeeper, do you have any suitable swords? I need two. Here's 100,000 Bailey. Zoro said, placing the money he borrowed from Nami on the counter. 100,000? You won't find any good swords for that price. How about? You sell me your sword? I'll give you 200,000 Bailey. Then you can buy 3 100,000 Bailey swords. The shopkeeper suggested, his eyes greedily fixed on the sword at Zoro's waist. Wado Akamaji. One of the 21 great grade swords. This poor fool buying 50,000 Bailey swords probably has no idea how valuable this blade is. Sell my sword? Zoro's expression clearly conveyed refusal. Alright. I'll take a loss. 400,000. No. 600,000 Bailey. The shopkeeper urged desperately, knowing such treasures were rare finds. Wait. I didn't notice it properly before. May I take a look at that sword? Dashigi's attention was suddenly captivated by the sword at Zoro's hip. Zoro didn't refuse, handing the sword to Dashigi. There's no mistake. This is Wado Akamaji. One of the 21 great grade swords. This is a famous blade worth over 10 million Bailey. Dashigi exclaimed. The shopkeeper's face turned pale green. Wado Akamaji? Zoro's eyes narrowed slightly. This was the first time he'd heard the sword's name. Previously, he had simply thought of it as the sword of promise between him and Kuina. I'm reporting you for obstructing business. Your sword is sharpened. Take it and get out. His hopes dashed, the shopkeeper rudely tossed Dashigi's sword towards her. Clack. Rowan caught the sword thrown at Dashigi with one hand, while his other steadied Dashigi, who had stumbled and nearly fallen while juggling both Wado Akamaji and her own thrown sword. You were so eager to raise the price earlier. Even without this lady's identification, the deal likely wouldn't have happened, right, shopkeeper? Rowan asked, looking at the shopkeeper with a knowing smirk. This shopkeeper, though greedy, wasn't inherently bad. Ultimately, he would give Zoro his family heirloom, Yubashiri, along with Sandai Kaitetsu. Thank you. Dashigi blushed, steadied by Rowan. She felt incredibly embarrassed by her clumsiness. If this man hadn't caught her, she would have fallen again. Humphrey. Those over there are all 50,000 Bailey swords. Go pick from them. The shopkeeper, losing face, grumbled twice, then pointed towards several barrels in the corner filled haphazardly with swords. Here, your sword. Rowan handed the sheathed blade back to Dashigi. Thank you. Dashigi accepted it, examined it carefully, then smiled. This shopkeeper's sharpening skills were actually quite good. That sword should also count as a famous blade, right? Rowan asked with a smile. This is Shigur. I'll train hard and use it to retrieve more famous swords from the hands of villains. Dashigi nodded seriously. What are you doing? Dashigi looked shocked as Rowan gently patted her head. Sorry. You just looked so cute, I couldn't resist. Rowan chuckled, raising his hands defensively. The combination of the glasses and her earnest, determined expression made Rowan subconsciously want to ruffle Dashigi's hair. See cute? Dashigi's face instantly turned bright red. She stammered, looking at Rowan. Why you? You still see me as just a woman. She then puffed out her cheeks angrily. Rowan found her reaction amusing. This cutesy woman's thought process really was different from most people's. This sword? Just then, Zoro, who had been rummaging through the barrels, spoke up, holding a particular katana. Let me see. Hey. This sword. No mistake. It's Sandai Kaitetsu. One of the skillful grade swords. Its predecessor, Nidai Kaitetsu, is a great grade sword, and the original, Shodai Kaitetsu, belongs among the supreme grade swords. Seeing a famous sword, Dashigi immediately got excited again. Shopkeeper. Is this sword really only 50,000 Bailey? Amazing. These usually sell for over 1 million. Dashigi looked towards the shopkeeper, whose expression had become extremely uneasy. Oh? The cursed sword Kaitetsu? Rowan looked at the blade Zoro had drawn, Sandai Kaitetsu, his eyes narrowing slightly. Check traits. Chapter 61, Interesting. So it's because of Zoro's Azura Aura trait that this cursed sword started choosing a master. Looks like the Azura Aura trait is even more special than I initially thought. The equipping speed also indicated its value. Zoro's demonic physique trait had finished equipping long ago,